Andy Campbell! It's in!
Okay.
Campbell comes off the bench to be a hero! A superhero! Breakthrough! It's taken a while, but it's been worth the wait for Cardiff City!
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 29 of the Andy Campbell Championship Show, only on Ace Podcast Nation. I am your host, Si, and I'll be joined by ex-Premier League and Championship striker, Mr. Andy Campbell, in just a second. We are back live, not only YouTube, Facebook, and we get involved in the live chat, guys. Say hello, send some questions for later on. And, just let us know what you're thinking about, what you think of what we're talking about, and all that good stuff. This coming Wednesday, new episode of the Danny Batten MMA show, which is absolutely ridiculous, jam-packed. We're speaking about Fury versus Wilder, UFC Auckland, which was incredible, good, really good show, especially the main event, the Bellator show in Dublin, Cody Davis's fight on BT and some other stuff. It's absolute jam-packed, and it's a must for combat sports fans, as myself and former Cage Warriors champion Danny Batten break it all down. I really enjoy talking about the Tyson Fury fight as well, because we obviously normally we speak about MMA most of the time, so it was nice to speak a bit about boxing and whatnot. So this Friday we have a new series, My Story, where we take different football stars, cricket stars, film stars, whoever we can get, take them through their upbringing, their career, and as they share memories and anecdotes from different aspects of their career. Episode 1 features former England fast bowler, cricket legend in my book, Mr. Chris Lewis, which was a really, really interesting show. He had lots of stories to share, as you can imagine. We talked about his upbringing, him coming over to England from the Caribbean, his career, his stint in prison, and then obviously his comeback and his time now where he's trying to help people who've maybe suffered with similar issues that he's had. So yeah, a jam-packed week on Ace Podcast Nation. And we got the usual show, any other business, bit of a rant here and there, talking a bit of VAR, bit of this and a bit of that. All the championship games. Boro and Cardiff are not in the main featured games, which I'm very happy to say, because they were both crap.
Awful.
Again. And with no further ado, let's meet the man himself, the man who just loves to put the ball in the onion bag, the fox in the box. Cardiff City legend, ex-Premier League striker, ex-Boro, speed demon, still the king of the Millennium Stadium, the goal collector, and Davy Jones's favourite son, Mr. Andy Campbell. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Good evening, mate. Yeah, I'm all right. 2 goals on Saturday side. Just to add to the collection for the over 40s.
Was that? I thought you were playing like against your kids or something.
Hey, Si, I've got
something
I forgot to do last week, but I'm going to start off with it doing now. So, Johnny,
just before you do, I just want to make a special mention. Happy birthday to owner, head honcho of Away Day Apparel, Alan Jones. Happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday,
he's a big supporter of the channel and the show.
Huge,
and I wanted to give him a special shout out because he helps us out a lot. And he supports us, and he sponsors us as well. So,
top fella.
God,
right.
Yes,
so
indeed.
Johnny Wish asked me to ask you a question. So, ask you. So, can you do the intro to the podcast like you used to do the Radarams quiz intro for a free beer?
Oh, fuck's sake! Well, you'll have to give me some time because that was
that's why I asked you at the start of the show. You see.
So basically, for people who don't know, I in my local pub where we all used to drink, obviously because it was local. I used to do the pub. I used to work there straight out of school, and So basically what I did is I used to do the pub quiz when the regular quiz guy left for free beer. And it would start off, it'd be really good. And then by the end of it, I'd be absolutely tipsy. And I was slurring my words and giving away the answers and the question and all sorts. It was a mess. It was not a good quiz. But what I did is for the start of the quiz, I used to do a 90s wrestling intro. And I used to reword it for all the different Rad Rams. So I'll have to come up with that. Maybe I'll finish the show on it because that'll be embarrassing. And I'll accidentally cut off the live feed just as I do it, maybe. But yeah, so I'd like to apologise in advance, probably to Cardiff City as a football club, because as you know, something just really annoyed me just before we come on air. So I was really irritated, and I feel like someone's going to feel the wrath when we get into it. So let's get into any other business, because we have got a bit to talk about outside the Championship. I'll let you go first, and we'll build up to my rant.
So I'm going to start off. So I want to start off with Barcelona and the rules for one club and the rules for another football club, i.e., that they obviously have lost a couple of centre forwards and some very good players through injury. So all of a sudden they were allowed to go and buy a centre forward from Legrand's, and they bought Martin Braithwaite, who was ex-Middlesbrough. I watched him quite a lot of times for Middlesbrough. I thought his attitude was disgusting. I thought his whole desire to play for a football club was awful. But my point is just how unfair that rule is, because I look at some other football clubs like Spurs, for example, in the Champions League, really struggling for players. Son's broke his arm, Harry Kane's out. So where does this end? Where's the fairness for each football club? Because if one's allowed to do it, then for me, then someone else should be allowed to do it. And if it was a short-term loan, I could fully accept it and fully probably swallow it a little bit. But surely, if you're a young lad at Barcelona and you're not getting an opportunity because they're able to go and sign a player outside the window, you must be really, really, really peeved off right now and thinking, am I ever going to get an opportunity now? Because we've got all these players in the squad. We've now got players injured and I still can't get in. They've now gone and bought somebody else who's not that good, in my opinion. And then all of a sudden, you're still stuck where you are in the youth team, on the reserves or whatever, under 23 team, under 21 team. And it must just be the most frustrating thing in the world, because it goes on to my next point about being, if you're good enough, you're old enough. It's regardless of your age. If you're 16-year-old and you're good enough, you play. It's really simple. If you're 23 and you're not very good, then you don't get your opportunity. It's about having the ability for me. And if you're good enough, and the manager has got every faith in you and the club's got every faith in you, then they're going to throw you in and they're going to put you in. I made my debut at 16 when I was at Middlesbrough because the manager thought I deserved an opportunity, and he kept me in for a good few games because of obviously ability. It wasn't a case of age. It wasn't a case of, yes, he brought me out a couple of times to probably protect, but never made a big thing of it. Where I've seen a lot of managers at the minute, or a couple of managers, who are now making a big thing about younger players and stating that inexperience. How do you become experience? The only way you become experienced is by gaining that experience, by playing, by working, by doing the thing that you want to do. And people need to really give the head a shake sometimes and just accept that the only way to get experience is by doing the job that you're paid to do, or do the job that you want to do. And it's just the biggest bugbear when I've seen comments like that over the weekend in interviews. It's just really annoyed me.
The Barca thing, I think, is kind of takes the mick a bit because, right, for instance, let's look at Tottenham. Harry Kane's out for the rest of the season, or most of the season. Yeah. Same with Song. So they've got no strikers. They're relying on midfield players to play up front.
Yeah.
They also don't have a squad as big as Barcelona. They're not as big as Barcelona as a club. So how come Barcelona can do it, but Tottenham can't? Or how come Cardiff haven't got any number 10s outside of Lee Tomlin, which we're about to discuss? But so how come they can't go and buy a number 10?
Yeah.
It's got to be the same. It's like we said about the VAR in the FA Cup with the lower league grounds not having the VAR. But then if you're at a Premier League game, you get VAR. So that can't be right in the same tournament because it's not an even playing field.
How do Real Madrid feel, Si? How do Real Madrid feel in the same league? Because they're both going for the Holy Grail. They're both going for the Championship. So how do they feel right now about someone else getting an unfair advantage on them to try and?
Well, what if he goes and scores 25 goals now between now and the end of the season, and Barcelona come back from behind and win the league? How is that? That's not fair.
That's
to
100%.
Real Madrid and to the other teams.
Yeah.
It's not on at all. And in going to the point you said about if they're old enough, if you're old enough, you're good enough. Completely agree. Look at some of the young players in the Championship who are playing. Jude Bellingham's of the world, 16, 17. Look at Mason Greenwood.
Yeah.
Scored, I think, 13 goals this year for Man United. Jude Bellingham's doing well. You've got the boys up. There's a couple of Blackburn. There's a couple of Middlesbrough as well. The young boys who, maybe if May had a bit more money, they probably wouldn't be getting a game.
Yeah,
but they should be because they're good enough. You don't always have to buy, buy to be better. So I completely agree with you. And I find Gaz says Barcelona corruption shocker. Well, yeah, this I don't know if it's corruption, but it's certainly like it does feel sometimes like Barca get an unfair advantage over other teams.
But then, you've got the other side of the coin where the side that Braithwaite leaves. You know what I mean? Where does that leave them? Because they lose their player, they've planned their window, and then all of a sudden
they can't buy anyone.
They're battling a relegation battle now, and they've lost their best centre forward. So. How on earth is the whole thing even close to being fair? It just doesn't. It must be the best deal in the world for Legranes. It must be an unbelievable deal for them because financially, it must be a loan. It must be a potential bigger deal in the future because of this deal. Because nobody in the right mind would sell a player outside of the window and not be able to replace. It just doesn't make. It's not a business decision, not a mathematical genius to understand. It's a poor call.
Yeah, indeed. Just a quick note, guys, before we move on to the next subject. The Andy Campbell Championship logo merchandise is now available. And as I said last week, from last Monday for the next 30 days, all my cut for all merchandise is going towards the Rhondda flooding victims, like a charity of some sort or a donation of some sort. It won't be a lot because I don't get a very big cut of the merchandise, but I do get a little bit. So the more that people buy to support the show for the next month, obviously will go to that. And the new logo is now available on phone cases and mugs and baby grows, Andy, baby grows, and other such things. Women's t-shirts, Sophie, as well. Don't forget. Expect matching. You three, you could have like matching ones.
His and hers, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's more designs to come. It's just I'm not very good at like Photoshop and stuff to make the designs. I got some ideas, I'm just not very good at it. And someone asked last week, I think it was last week, it might have been the week before, I think it was Johnny actually asked if we were going to do some sort of t-shirt with the kind of the logo or the podcast or the channel with like an away day apparel type thing. I had a quick chat with Alan about it. It's a bit complex and complicated, but we are going to try and make something special, maybe to do like a giveaway.
If anyone can do it, Al can do it.
Yeah, he's a top man. Ian David says he likes my Costa Cup. It's a bit disgraceful, really. I shouldn't have Costa Cup. There's also other coffee providers.
I've got one as well.
Mug. Oh, matching Costa Cups. There we go.
Not planned. Wasn't planned.
No, it's not at all. I literally just picked that up because I had to go to the shop. Okay, as requested by a friend of the show, and I believe he's watching because he's already dropped a couple of F-bombs in the chat, as he always does. Mr. Cockney Gaz. David Moyes, West Ham. He was brought in to save West Ham, to keep them up. He is not doing a very good job. I much like Neil Harris, it feels like it was a money-orientated appointment because to me, if you're bringing in a manager in the Premier League and the only objective is to not get relegated, there's only one man you bring in, and that's Big Sam. Mm-hmm. You do not bring in David Moyes, whose last few jobs since he left Everton, he did do all right at West Ham the first time around. He kept him up, but bar in that one sort of half season, he's been dreadful. He's been awful.
But Si, you look at the tactics he did against Manchester City. Yes, Manchester City game was always going to be a difficult game. It's always going to be a mountain to climb. But from a neutral point of view, who wants to see somebody just trying to upset Manchester City, just didn't happen. He just sat off them. It was just like he might as well not have bothered turning up. They might as well not have bothered turning up. His team selection, his tactics, the way that he set his side up, the way that he made his substitutions, it just cried out for me that he just didn't care less about it. Where for me, you get a positive result there, then you can afford to lose a game. Where now he's put himself in a position where they can't afford to lose a game against rivals. They can't afford to lose the next game, which they're playing obviously Liverpool this evening. And then obviously they've got Southampton at home, Arsenal away, Wolves at home, Tottenham away, Chelsea at home, Newcastle. It's just, for me, I'll be honest, I'm struggling to see how they're going to gain enough points over the next month, 6 weeks to try and force their way out of it, because you look at the league.
They're playing Liverpool tonight, I think.
Liverpool, it's just an awful situation for a huge club. But you define huge club when the owners are picking a manager the way that they've picked it, then they can only blame themselves. So it's the supporters I feel sorry for. You know, I've got a few West Ham fans, friends myself, and Gaz is obviously a big friend of the show, and I feel sorry for everybody concerned with the club, because you know what I mean, it's been handled really badly from the top for years and years and years. And the worst thing that football club ever did was move away from Upton Park, because the results that they got, the positive results they got were at Upton Park, and it was always a not very nice place to go as a player. And you knew you were in for a game, regardless if it was Man United going there, Arsenal going there, or Middlesbrough or Cardiff going there. It was always a really tough place to go, and I don't see that happening at the London Stadium. I just see everyone enjoys going there to play, because it's dead and an open stadium. It's a nice facility, and people come away with positive results left, right, and centre. It's not a nasty place to go anymore.
Yeah, and the thing is, mate, is when you play any football match, you should be trying to get anything you can out of it, whether that's a win or a draw or whatever. Against Man City, they didn't even try to win. They didn't even try and draw. No. It was given up. What sort of message does that send to your players that you're not, there's in no way you're trying to even get a point, really. You're just trying to keep the score down before you've even started. Yeah. I just think it's really piss poor, and I feel sorry for the fans, because they pay a fortune for season tickets and to go to that stadium. None of them wanted to go to the stadium anyway, and they're stuck with it. But it is what it is, I suppose. Guys, if you don't mind giving the video a share, tweet it out, put it out on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, Facebook. Try and get more people to join us, help us grow, and obviously the more people comment and leave thumbs up and stuff, that helps our engagement, which helps us get out to new people on the socials. Okay, so what do we do next? Do I go for my Cardiff rant now? So Gaz says, there you go. Gaz says he says something about West Ham. Let's see what's Gaz saying, because he goes. He says Moyes versus Man City was embarrassing, like the stadium. Well, there you go. That's a West Ham fan who goes. Yeah. There we go. It is what it is. I feel sorry for him. And not the only club I feel sorry for, by the way. There's a few being mismanaged around, sadly. And as usual, the FA and the Premier League don't give two hoots as long as they're getting their money. They don't care about the fans. Right, I'm not going to go for Cardiff yet. We'll finish any other business on Cardiff today. Manchester United midfield 6 weeks ago was looking threadbare. Fred had not barely played. He had, and when he had played, he'd looked like a Sunday League player. McTominay, who had been doing quite well, was injured. They had to bring Matic back in, who looked like he was going to leave. And they just looked, oh my God, what are they doing? They had Pereira and people and Mata starting, people who looked poor. Then all of a sudden, they brought in Fernandes, Matic looks half decent again. Fred has been excellent. McTominay came back on the weekend. Suddenly, you think, right, if you put... Because Fernandes has been real good. I've been very, very impressed with him. He's exactly what they needed. And I was looking at them going forward on Saturday, and I was thinking, God, if you put a real, like, sharp, in-form, motivated Paul Pogba next to Fernandes with Fred, McTominay, or Matic behind, suddenly you've got a midfield which looks pretty tasty. So I thought, well, hang on, do those four players and then Matic as a backup because of his age, is that a good enough midfield to when they're all on song to compete with the very best in the Premier League, with the very best in Europe? So I compared some of the midfields. So you got who have we got? So you got Chelsea, whose midfield is pretty good. They got some good young players in there. You've got Liverpool, obviously top of the league. Is Fernandes, Pogba, and say Fred, for sake of argument, better than I was going to say Darius Henderson then. Jordan Henderson. Who else plays in midfield for Liverpool? I can't even think. Is that better if they're all James Milner? Yeah, and I was trying to work out. Is it as good if they're all on form and motivated? Is it not as good? Is it the same? And I came to the conclusion that those 4 or 5 could be very good for Man United. And it's strange how things can change in football so very quickly. What's your opinion? I know it's likely, don't get me wrong, it's likely Paul Pogba was going to go in the summer. But if they can get 3 months, like 2 months out of him at the end of a season and is playing like he can,
I think for me, Si, you can only... For me, I'd probably judge it on would I like to see that kind of team? Would I like to play against my teams playing against that kind of midfield? And for me, they've got the players that you've named there from Man United. They can just dominate games on their own individually and collectively if they can all get playing at the same time. And good players. I've always said, Si, cream always rises. And Fred hasn't pulled up any trees this season, but now he's playing with better players. Now they brought in Fernandes. And Matic has always been a steady away player. He's always probably a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. You know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? But defensively, you know what I mean? For me, sometimes his probably legs have gone a little bit. You know what I mean? So McTominay's probably took over, but with the injuries that they've happened at Old Trafford, certain things take over. But for me, this surely would encourage Paul Pogba to probably stay put. You know what I mean? Like, regardless where he thinks and where he wants to go, is he going to play? You know what I mean? Is he going to go to Real Madrid and play? You know what I mean? Is he going to go to Paris Saint-Germain, back home to France and go and play week in, week out? You know, and we spoke about Paris Saint-Germain last week. You know what I mean? We were on about players who in the Premier League did okay, but then they flourished going elsewhere and going back to clubs. Do I see Paul Pogba flourishing in another club? You know what I mean? In another country? Probably not. You know what I mean? There's no bigger club in the world than Man United on paper. You know what I mean? So they're the biggest club around the world, but they need to implement and they need to collectively start playing better and be harder to beat. You know that. It's obviously took him a long time to get a defensive partnership in there. He brought in Harry Maguire. Obviously, Rashford going forward, De Gea in goal, Pogba in midfield, Fernandes. You look at the spine of that team now. You know what I mean? Going forward, they could be absolutely fantastic and could be starting to challenge for trophies again if they can just probably tweak a couple of things and probably stay injury free. But you know what I mean? First and foremost, that they need to resolve certain issues. And the issue for me is does he want to stay? Because if he doesn't want to stay, then there's only one way for him to go. But it's got to be right for the football club. The deal's got to be right because no player's bigger than the club. United paid, just under £100 million for him. So when he does go, if he decides to go, then Man United deserve at least the money back because he's won the World Cup. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Why shouldn't they get as much as they can?
When am I? I'm going to get to Gaz's point there. I've left it up there just to remind me. But the interesting thing for me about Pogba is everyone knows how good he can be. Everyone knows how good he is on his day. But the players he was playing with they were not good. Pereira, not good enough to play for a club the size of Man United. Jesse Lingard is a championship player. Yeah. I know that maybe some England fans who he's done quite well for England will maybe give me a bit of grief for that. Jesse Lingard is a top championship player for me. He is not a Premier League midfielder, let alone a top 4 midfielder who should be playing Champions League football. No way. So what can you expect Paul Pogba to do with these players? And you could argue that at points he's done quite well with them. Now, if you put him in there with a Fernandes and then have a fit McTominay behind them, because McTominay looked very good at the start of the season when he was, him and Fred were doing very well. That could be very interesting because you've got then Maguire and Lindelof. Then you've got the 2 fullbacks who are obviously doing quite well, and you've got the young boy playing fullback as well, Brandon Williams, who looks like he might sneak in the England squad. This is how good he's been. And then obviously you've got the likes of Martial and Rashford and Daniel James. It's suddenly a very good start in first 11, strongest 11 could be very good. So Gaz makes the point. Why does Lampard get praised whilst Solskjaer gets threatened with the sack? Why? Like, obviously the size of the clubs maybe and the pressure, but they're both doing a rebuild. They're both blooding very young players in their squads. So why is one universally praised? Is it because he's English? Is it because they're both managing their they're both legends at their clubs. Yeah. They're both trying to do the things that they're both, United fans, Chelsea fans have all been asking. Chelsea fans have been asking for years. Don't loan out all these youngsters. Give some of them a chance. Frank's doing it. He's rightly getting praised. But with young players comes inconsistency. Yeah. It's exactly the same thing with United, but why is one praised and one not?
I think, so. You've also got to look at money spent as well. You know what I mean? Frank hasn't spent hardly any money at all, or if he's spent any money at all for Chelsea. So obviously the rebuilding process has started. He's obviously cut his cloth accordingly. So, you know what I mean? The money that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's brought in and the players he's brought in, but the results that Ole's done, he's been to Paris last year. He's knocked them out in the Champions League, so he deserves his credits for that. You used the word there; it was inconsistent, and I think Chelsea. I think Chelsea's individual players have been inconsistent, and that's probably affected results. And they've had a couple of people making individual errors and mistakes. But Man United's team has been inconsistent, and I think, and probably a little bit boring. I think Man United have been spoiled a little bit with the attacking players they've had in the past, with the Giggs, with the Ronaldos, with the Beckhams, with the Dwight Yorks, the Van Nistelrooys, just to name a few. Whereas now, when it's not scoring any goals, I can see why Man United fans are getting a little bit bored and a little bit tedious of what's going on, because they want their team just to go for games and expect them to go and win games and attack and the games, especially the games I've saw. I don't see that. I see them setting up like every other championship, like every other Premier League team does, and sets up hard to beat. But that's not what Fergie used to do. That's not what you expect champions to do. And unfortunately, I think he's made a rod for his own back with his tactics, and supporters don't really buy into that. And you know what I mean. And I find it strange. Si, I watched the Europa League through the week, and I've watched quite a lot of it since the league started, and he hasn't played his best side yet in the whole competition. He's played kids throughout. He's made so many changes throughout, but they're still in there, and they're still got an unbelievable chance of progressing through to the last 16 or whatever. So if he can prioritise and he wants to do well in that cup, and you know what I mean, because what's going to save his job, Si? He's going to save his own job by winning something. And if you win the Europa League, and that's got a Champions League place at the end of it, or he gets the Champions League place by hook or by crook, if that's by Man City not getting one, or if that's by earning one the way they deserve by finishing in the top 4, then fantastic. That's the only way he's going to keep his job for me, because Man United, they need success. And you've just said there about the midfield, and you know what I mean. For me, the side they've got now and the side they put out on Sunday against Watford, they should be doing better. Yes, Sunday was excellent. The result was excellent. The performance was excellent, but they need to do it consistently, regular for the rest of the season and finish in that top 4, because anything else for me is just a failure.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's really interesting to see how they do. The other interesting aspect is if Man City's ban holds up, then 5th place gets a Champions League spot.
Yeah, I know.
Which obviously adds a whole new dynamic to everything.
Yeah. Well, you've got the Sheffield United factor, you've got the Spurs factor, you've got somebody making a late run up the league. The Wolves, you know what I mean? I watched the highlight the Wolves game yesterday. I thought they're excellent. See, Dom knows his stuff there. It was the best goal he's ever seen, by the way, wasn't it, Dom? Best goal is one of the best volleys ever. Dom will tell you.
Well, judging by that, maybe we should get Dom on to be a pundit instead of you. To replace you. Yeah, I think it's Johnny makes a good point there, actually. Just lastly on Solskjaer before we move on. He says, OGS has managed the youngsters like James and Greenwood really well. He deserves credit for changing the formation as well. They've looked good with 3 at the back. Shaw as a centre-back. That's interesting, actually, because, very rarely do United fans take to their manager changing the formation. They're very set in their ways in terms of like the formation and the tactics they play. They want to play a certain way. And Johnny's right there is that he has played 3 at the back a bit recently. And Luke Shaw doesn't jump out at me as a centre back initially because he's so used to seeing him play as a fullback. Yeah. But if you look at his build and his speed and his reading of the game, he's actually probably ideal to play on the left side of the 3.
But the way they play, Si, you know what I mean? Because I'll go back to my previous point there about Man United in the past that their probably supporters would be happy to see them play 3 at the back and having wingers going forward as wing backs and just attack. Well, and for me, it's the way forward for United to do it.
Yeah, and by doing that, playing Shaw on the left of the other 2, you get Brandon Williams in that side, which obviously United fans want. You get Wan-Bissaka and Brandon Williams, as your wing backs with the 3 midfielders we mentioned, and then a duo up front of Rashford and Martial, or Rashford and James, or whoever it may be. And by the way, just lastly to say, Martial's goal on Saturday or Sunday, beautiful, reminiscent of me for Rider 5. That was unbelievable. I did that many times. So yeah, we just got a few people telling us about Andy's goals from the weekend.
Okay. That was our goalkeeper. That so yeah, he saw it from a different.
He knows his stuff as well.
Yeah, of course he does.
So okay, so normally we wouldn't really talk about Championship football during any of the business. This is our time to talk about football stories from around the globe and football, just different places. But because Cardiff weren't selected as one of the top 3 featured games, we're not going to spend that much time talking about them during the breakdown of all the different shows and stuff. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about Lee Tomlin and Cardiff City's failure to prepare. So my point is, Lee Tomlin has held Cardiff City's team together for 3-4 months now from an attacking point of view. Whenever he's not on the pitch, we look devoid of any attacking creativity or thought. We look poor. Now, my point, as I said, text you on the weekend, is at the start of the season, transfer windows open, summer, we got money to spend, parachute payments ready to go. Big club like Cardiff, just come down from the Premier League, Neil Warnock in charge, ready for the big charge to get promotion. Lee Tomlin was 3rd choice at best going into the season for that number 10 position or attacking midfielder position. We didn't sign anyone. First 2 months of the season, Lee Tomlin barely gets a kick. He was injured. But he was also got himself in tremendous shape. Neil Warnock still didn't fancy him to start. Didn't sign anyone. The window closed. No creativity. Eventually, Tomlin comes in because we had no creativity. We were losing and drawing. Lee Tomlin comes in. As soon as we say, give him a chance, because when he gets a run of games, he's one of the best number 10s in the Championship. Lo and behold, he gets a chance. He gets a run of games. One of the best number 10s in the Championship. He's been exceptional every time. He's been fit and playing and starting. Now, January comes. We've been dependent on Lee Tomlin to be our creative force. Every time he's not on the pitch, we struggle. A January window comes, we don't sign any number 10s. We sign Uncle Albert, we sign a couple of other players. No number 10, no real creative player with a bit of guile and a bit of just do something out of the ordinary who can win you a game with a back heel or just something special, which Tomlin has done several times this year already. Now, Lee Tomlin's now injured. I think you said 6 to 8 weeks, which is pretty much the end of the season. Okay. Cardiff got no one to come in for him. And as shown on Saturday, they had nothing in terms of creativity going forward. Now, you can't, it's not Lee Tomlin's fault he's injured. It's not Lee Tomlin's fault that the club is so dependent on him going forward. But Cardiff City as a club, you've got your chairman, you've got your chief exec, you've got the people who make the transfer decisions, you've got the managers, you've got the coaching staff, you've got the scouts. If we can see it, and we've been talking about it, this isn't something that me and you have discussed over the last couple of days, and we thought, oh, wow, Lee Tomlin, we're probably a bit over-reliant on him. We have been talking about this for months. So if we're talking about it, why on earth at Cardiff City, why has no one been talking about it there? Because they don't want to spend any money. You look at the teams who've spent money, and you look at the teams who prepared properly as a professional football club who've just come down from the Premier League with millions in the bank. West Brom prepared correctly. Fulham needed players. They addressed the positions they needed. They spent the money accordingly. Leeds needed players after not going up last year. Addressed it, got those players in the positions they needed. Brentford wanted to make a real effort of going up this year, so they spent a fortune because they needed to get a few players in if they wanted to push on, ready for their new stadium next year. Cardiff City are trying to do it on the cheap. And Richard Sullivan, evening, by the way, says it's tan. And it is tan. He's turned down 2 takeover bids recently. Mr. Tan has. Everyone who knows me knows I'm not a fan. However, my point being is he either wants to be at Cardiff and be the chairman and take the club forward, or he doesn't. He cannot half-arse it. The club cannot half-arse it. Either prepare properly, do your due diligence on your team and what you need, and then go and get it for the manager, or don't. Get a transfer team in, or get a chief executive, or get a chairman, or sell the club to people who are going to run it properly. Because to me, it's negligence. Not just in the summer, not just in the January, but all season long. It is negligence. And what makes it worse is we knew we were going down, May last year?
Yeah.
So you got May, June, July, August, September. 4 months, 5 months to prepare. Then the January window, and they still haven't addressed it.
The problem I've got, Si, is that it's the link for me from the chairman down to the first team. You know what I mean? So where's that link? You know what I mean? Where's the link? Is the link the chief exec? You know what I mean? For me, I look at a manager, regardless how old and how experienced, but I think the more people you have pushing in the same direction, the better chance you've got to succeed. Where if that's a director of football, if that's, you know what I mean? For me, that's always a good link, because it's someone who's close to the chairman, someone who can get, and instead of a manager going to see the chairman and saying, listen, I need £5 million because I need a centre forward, straight away you've got the chairman's backup. You, as a manager, you're upsetting the chairman. You're then under pressure to go and win a football match. Where somebody else does it on your behalf, i.e. a director of football, you're keeping the pressure off the manager, and that's the most important thing, which then the pressure's not put on the players. You know what I mean? The playing staff separate, and then the link between the two, the chairman and the players and the management is kept separate. And I think it's so important in nowadays football. You see that the successful football teams, you know what I mean, that when do you ever see Manchester City and the link between the chairman and the football manager? You don't. You've got a director of football, you know what I mean, who's doing it. And for me, it's the easiest way of helping to stabilise a football club and to have that link between the manager and and an owner, a chairman, and I just think I think a lot of teams are missing a trick. You know what I mean? Especially in the Championship. Maybe it's a financial thing that they can't afford to pay somebody else. It's like paying two managers. But if you're going to move forward and you want to push in the right direction, you've got an ideal opportunity for me to do that. And you know what I mean? The top sides, the Leeds of this world, and the West Broms. You know what I mean? The Nottingham Forests. These should all be doing that now, putting things in place, because the Premier League's a different animal. And if they don't get that help, that's why managers lose their jobs. You know what I mean? Look at Norwich, you know what I mean? Sometimes Villa, you know what I mean? The teams who are struggling, the teams who are going up, because they haven't got that help, they're just going up blind a little bit without that support mechanism in place to help clubs move forward again.
Yeah, Graham just said there that the club needs new owners to stabilise the club and put a bit of money in. The problem is you are completely right, 100% right. I've been saying that for a while, but Mr. Tanner's got to sell the club for that to happen. I got told by someone who I wouldn't think would make it up that one of the takeover bids, which was turned down, was from somewhere in the Middle East who wanted to pump a hell of a lot of cash in because they see it, it's the capital of Wales. Mm-hmm. They got a massive, nice stadium, the big club, the potential's there to really push on, and be where like a Wolves is now, playing European football and, et cetera, et cetera. But Mr. Tan turned it down. You can't force him to sell. There's not much you can do. Do I want Cardiff City to be sold to someone from, for instance, Saudi Arabia? No, I do not. That would make me a hypocrite if I said yes, considering what I said last week about, the Man City owners. Doesn't sit right with me on a personal level. However, do I want owners to come in and chuck a load of cash into Cardiff, stabilise the club financially, and then actually spend these parachute payments on football players? Absolutely. Because Cardiff have the potential to really push on and do it. We will see, mate. We will see. Guys, go on, Ant. Go on, you go, mate.
No, I just think it's so frustrating, side, because everyone's the same thing. You know what I mean? I can go back to my Middlesbrough connections, and you know what I mean. That Steve Gibson's probably the best chairman for me in British football. You know what I mean? The way that the things that I've seen him do at that football club. But then you see people's comments at the minute, and they're frustrated with his managerial selection, and they now want him to sell the football club. Well, you got to take a reality check, you know what I mean? And I look at Cardiff and I'll throw that back at people and say the grass isn't always greener. And you sell your football club to the wrong person, and all of a sudden the problems get deeper and deeper and deeper. You know what I mean? And that's not Cardiff City. That's other football clubs. And for me, you just want to be careful what you wish for, because you know what I mean. Yes, relegation happens. It's unfortunate, but sometimes the football club's got to take a step back before it takes 3 steps forward. And transition periods have to happen before any success becomes apparent. Because let's say Middlesbrough had a worldly season this season, got promoted, they'd be relegated straight away from the Premier League, because the golfing class from the team that's playing week in, week out now, and it could have a diverse effect on what's happening currently now. So for me, you've just got to take things as they are. And I've always said, Si, if Middlesbrough finish just above the relegation, I'll be over the moon. But I'd love the football club just to come out and say that. And it's the same as Cardiff. What's Cardiff's ambition? The football club come out and say we're aiming for the playoffs. If they're not wanting the playoffs this year, then just come out and say it. You know what I mean? But they don't want to come out and say it because it looks negative. And I get the point of that. But sometimes we want everyone pushing in the same direction. And I don't always feel as though that's the case, because we don't always know what's going on in house. And you know what I mean? It's like the best kept secret in the world in football at the minute, where nobody knows anyone's ambitions or objectives. Everyone keeps on about this holy grail of the playoffs. You know what I mean? Well, some teams are stuck in 16th, 17th in the league, and they're talking about playoffs. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen because of the gulf in class, the gulf in how far teams are behind, and the teams in and around who can't get in it at the minute, like Bristol City, like Blackburn Rovers. You know what I mean? So you've got to be realistic as well.
Yeah, going back to my original point about Cardiff's negligence, failure to prepare for the season correctly, properly. Do you think that's me being harsh, or do you think that's a fair point?
I think it's fair, me side, because listen, we're all keen football supporters here. You know what I mean? We've been critical on the club their choice of manager. We've been critical on his tactics. We've been critical on him and his similarities to the old manager. But then we've also been positive as well and apologised and eating our words a little bit. But at the same time, you know what I mean? But they keep on making the same mistakes. So it's for me, it's one step forward, one step back at the minute, or one step forward, two steps back, because the results what they got at Luton Town and against Huddersfield, fantastic, brilliant. Don't get me wrong. But then they go and draw against Wigan, then they go and lose against Stoke City. So you know what I mean? For me, it's gone. We've gone backwards, like further than we were after the Luton Town game and after the Huddersfield game, because the strides to move forward now are bigger than they need to be all season. You know what I mean? Then you've got the added extra of Swansea overtaking us, and Swansea seeing it as a competition of Cardiff versus Swansea, which is not the case for me whatsoever. It's about getting as far up that table as I possibly can, and if that's if Cardiff finish sixth and Swansea finish fifth, I couldn't care less as long as Cardiff City are in the playoffs. You know what I mean? And that's just the be all and end all. It's not a competition between two sides, and if anyone thinks that's the case, it's massively untrue. But it's we all need, and we all are pushing in the same direction, but I just think sometimes we just need a little bit of honesty from certain people.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Right, we're going to move on to the Championship games. Just a couple of plugs as usual, just before we do that. All of our shows, Ace Podcast Nation, are available in video at youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Also, I do upload some to Facebook, but I forget a lot of the time. This one obviously goes to Facebook because it's live. You can get all our audio versions of all the shows at the usual podcasting platforms and apps, radio apps like TuneIn Radio and iHeartRadio also. We do podcasts on mental health in sport, wrestling, mixed martial arts, boxing. We've got a couple of series. Unscripted and Uncensored is one of our most popular series, where basically we get a guest and you guys send in questions and talking points, and then me and the guest talk about it, and it can go in all sorts of directions. I think when I spoke to Gavin Gwynn, we were talking about paedophile hunter groups and all these different subjects, not necessarily in the guest's wheelhouse per se, which can makes for a lot of fun. We also have a new series coming out Friday, which is My Story, which is where I take a guest through their career and just they share some memories, some anecdotes and stories. First episode is with former England fast bowler Chris Lewis, and second episode is with former Wales international and Cardiff City legend Mr. Rhys Weston. And I have to say, I think that's one of my best podcasts yet. It was a really, really interesting show. Rhys was excellent. I can't speak highly enough of him. Obviously, we've also got shows like I think we did 4 shows on the Sala tragedy, where we spoke to the author of the book, The Killing of Emiliano Sala, Mr. Harry Harris, who's a respected journalist and author. Don't be put off by the title of that book. The person who wrote it is absolute top-notch journalist who's exposed corruption and done various things over the years. He's also just written a book on Jurgen Klopp. He did a load of autobiographies. I think one of them was Glenn Hoddle. So I did a 3-part interview with him. Then me and Andy did a show discussing the book. And then I spoke to Harry Harris again then about the latest developments, which is all very, very interesting. Can be a bit angering when you start talking about Willie Mackay. But yeah. And lastly, before we move on, shout out to our sponsors. Today's show brought to you by Away Day Apparel. As you've seen on my chest and my flag behind, you can visit Away Day Apparel at awaydayapparel.co.uk for the latest clothes and offers, with some big things planned for 2020. Definitely worth following them on Twitter at Away Day Apparel and Instagram at @awayday_apparel, because they've just launched their pre-orders for the Euro stuff, which they've got, and they've got some really good cracking stuff. And like I mentioned before, I've seen some of their ideas for going forwards for other parts of clothing and different ideas for t-shirts and things like this. Excellent guy running it, and I can't speak highly enough of them. And I thank them for sponsoring the show and the channel, and especially for listeners, viewers of Ace Podcast Nation. We have a offer, 10% off all orders if you use the code AA Podcast Nation, all lowercase, at the checkout, and you get 10% off all your orders. Okay, that's all the plugs, and that's the plugs. That's the stuff. Now it's time for the good stuff. The best league in the world. And this week, we're not going to be talking about Cardiff or Boro in detail, which is thankful. I'm thankful for that. The people have voted. We let the people decide the 3 main games which feature each week. We put the polls up on a Saturday night on the Ace Podcast Nation Twitter page. So guys, always vote for that. First game up is Birmingham versus Sheffield Wednesday. Oh, guys, just another thing. If you can give the video a thumbs up, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, drop as many comments as you can. Get involved, because the more comments we get and the more thumbs up we get, the engagement's higher, and it helps us grow, and it helps us find people who are not friends of friends on Facebook or Twitter and stuff. Helps us find new viewers and helps us grow naturally. So, and Birmingham 3, Sheffield Wednesday 3. Sheffield Wednesday, by the way, have just gone off a cliff.
Yeah,
much like Bristol.
Well, what a game though, Si. You know what I mean? But
it's unbelievable.
Spoke about Birmingham starting the season about how poor they were last year, but the manager he's built this young, energetic side, and the signing for me, well, one of the signings of the January window has got to be Scott Hogan, because he's making such a difference for Birmingham City, and he's just showing how good he is. That Birmingham started really well. I thought they were excellent. They opened scoring from a corner, which was awful defending, by the way. Jacob Murphy scored an own goal on loan from Newcastle United, and he just got things awfully wrong, really. And then your own worst enemy at times, you score, and then all of a sudden you sit back. And we've said this side about Cardiff City a lot this season, that when they go and score, that go and get that second goal, go and get that third goal, and go and make things happen. When you let Barry Banham dribble from 20, 30, 40 yards out and carry on, what's he going to do? He's going to unleash a shot, and 25 yards out, he wasn't the greatest shot in the world, but when it's on target and he's got a left foot like Barry Banham has, it's gonna end up in the back of the net, and you've only got yourself to blame for that. And then Birmingham then started to play again, and I thought Jukovic was unplayable at times, and he's, you know what I mean, I've been raving about him for probably a couple of months now, that he really has a massive impact on that younger side, because he just takes all the pressure off and wins all the headers and just battles away, and probably gets he's probably an unsung hero really. But I thought his goal was fantastic after some neat play with Hogan. But then again, Birmingham shot themselves in the foot, pressed the self-destruct button, and gave away a penalty. And Forestieri put it in really well. And second half, I thought Wednesday were excellent. That they kept going, and this time Murphy scored in the right end for a great shot across the goalkeeper. And then they probably should have gone further ahead, Sheffield Wednesday, but they just couldn't get that fourth goal before Scott Hogan scored an excellent equaliser in injury time. And it just shows how important centre forwards are, who can score goals, who know where the back of the net is. Because you look at Birmingham City, they've got probably the 2 informed centre forwards of Scott Hogan and Lukas Jukovic, and they both did what they needed to do on Saturday and got a goal each. And it just shows how much Birmingham's fortunes have changed, and they kept Jude Bellingham, which is giving them confidence, and Birmingham just look a different side than Sheffield Wednesday look. Sheffield Wednesday look lack of confidence. They look shot to pieces. The managers looks lacking ideas. They've obviously the firepower going forward. They've just they're really struggling.
Yeah, I was going to say Johnny. Was it Johnny? Yeah, Johnny made an interesting point. Or Scott Hogan, has he changed their season? Was he the missing piece? Because I really think that he's made a big difference to them. Like you say, Jukovic, I think from an experience point of view, was taking the pressure off those young lads. He was doing the battering ram role almost. But I think Scott Hogan has given them the finishers, in that instinctive finisher up front.
Yeah, but you've also got that Villa link as well, where but supporters have to really buy into this, because the manager's seen where he needed a player. He's seen a player's availability at Aston Villa. The link between and the rivalry between Villa and Birmingham's huge. Of course it is. But you've got to see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is Scott Hogan's making a difference. So if he goes 2 or 3 games without scoring a goal, don't get on his back because he's ex-Villa. Giving him an opportunity to go and play, go and flourish. We said earlier on about in previous shows about how good he was at Brentford, and we're going back a few years now. That he got his move to Villa. He's tried in the Premier League. It hasn't worked out for him. He's dropped back in the Championship. It shows that he's comfortable in that division and he'll score goals in a side who's playing mid-table. So, you know what I mean? Imagine if he was playing up front for Leeds United, for example, and how many goals he would score. So it's an interesting one that, you know what I mean, that they've got to keep faith with him, and when he doesn't score, that not to get on his back because he's a rival from another club, because he could sign for Birmingham in the summer easily and help them push forward to next season. You just don't know.
Yeah, it's Sheffield Wednesday have just gone off a cliff these last few months. They really looked like they were going to push on, and they just gone off a cliff. Whereas Birmingham, we said all season, they've been playing really well. Probably haven't got the results they maybe deserved at points, but it was we kind of put it down to the younger players maybe just being a bit inconsistent because they're young and they're learning on the job, and you know they're learning in first team football. Yeah. And that's not just Jude Bellingham, by the way. You know, Birmingham have got a couple of, you know, younger players, not 16, 17, but, you know, like 19, 20. They're learning on the job. And I think they're doing an excellent job. And I really do think if they can keep those players together, you know, sign them, make a couple of interesting, you know, signings with experience or loan signings, I think Birmingham could make a push for promotion next year because the young players are so good. If they can bring in some, you know, some clever signings, they're not far out, you know, far off in terms of quality.
Oh, things. Go on, carry on.
I was just going to say, it's obviously the squad size. I think they struggle with a bit. They haven't got a massive squad.
Oh, you look at another picture. They could sell Jude Bellingham for 50 million quid, and they're going to reinvest all that money on five, six, seven really good players to push them forward. So, you know what I mean. I can't see him staying there for the next 2 or 3 seasons. I'm really happy he stayed there now. If there's a deal in place in the summer that he goes and signs somewhere, then so be it. But for me, and we both said it, he needs to play 50 games this season, which it looks like he probably will. I hope, fingers crossed, touch wood, that he finishes the full season with injuries. But then he does it. He does it next season as well because he needs to play football. He has to play football.
Yes, indeed he does. Well, we said, didn't we, back in January, that we thought if he was going to go to a United or whoever, the best thing for him to do was to stay here for maybe 2 years, have, you know, a good 150 games under his belt by the time he's 20. Have, you know, being 20, be like Rashford, where like you're 20, but you're so experienced that you can take that and really develop. I just wanted to point out, Josh said, glory, glory, Man United. You missed the Man United talk. That was at the start.
one of my ex students was Josh. So
I see.
Played in goal for me. We had a good laugh in Holland. Holland trip was amazing.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Amsterdam.
Memory.
taking your students to Amsterdam. What sort of teacher are you? Okay, so yeah, Sheffield Wednesday moved up a place to 12th. Birmingham 14th.
Yeah. So I just look.
I'm happy Birmingham.
A picture with. Oh, have I gone? Am I there?
No, they're back now. Yeah, they're back. I'm happy that Birmingham are safe as well. That makes me happy because those young players will continue to get a chance.
Can't hear me now again, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you
again.
You have to go out and back in again, mate.
Sorry, keep talking.
Yeah, I'm talking, man. So Andy's disappeared. Now you can all see my windows right there. You'll probably see my dog in a minute. Noisy dog. So guys, yeah. Thank you, Luke. Great, he says, great podcast, fellas. Appreciate that, mate. Obviously, while we just wait for Andy to come back in, best way for us to grow as a channel and as you know, as we keep growing this show, like over the week, about 3,000 people download or view, and this podcast in particular, but also, you know, the other shows we do get views as well. But this is our flagship show. This is the one that gets the most views and downloads. The best way for us to grow as a channel and as a podcast is for you guys to share and tell your friends and get more and more people. You know, we enjoy the live shows because we can interact with people, and best way to do it is word of mouth. So anything you guys can do to help is spread the word, tell people, share the link when we're doing the live show, tell people, you know, say like, or jump on now, they're talking about Man United, they're talking about West Ham, they're talking about this game, that game, and then we can get people coming in, as their team's talking about. We know it's a long one, but it's football talk. We're talking about all different things. Yeah. We appreciate all of you, every single one of you, the people who pop in and come back and they're backing in and out for the 2 hours, the people who stay for the full 2 hours, the people who are waiting before we even start. We appreciate all of you. Even the people who download it later in the week, the people who watch them later in the week. The last 3 weeks, this show is done by the following Monday, over 3,000 either views or downloads. And that's insane to me. That's just like, whew.
Yeah.
Ian David says, share the love. Indeed. Spread the love, share the love, and tell your friends.
I totally agree.
Let's move on to the next game. Charlton Athletic having a bit of a revitalization. 3-1 versus Luton, who were in good form.
Yeah, we've said so, haven't we? It's inconsistent. I was so pleased on at the weekend for Lee Bowyer because he's had such a turbulent season. And I was really worried for them because Luton have been in decent form. They beat Sheffield Wednesday at Kenilworth Road. They went to Middlesbrough last weekend and beat Middlesbrough. So 2 clean sheets on the bounce. So they're going into this game really, really confident. And I thought Charlton started the brighter out of the two. They should have scored. And it was Navi Sarr hit the crossbar after a great touch just from around the penalty spot. And I thought Luton really struggling from crosses. You know what I mean? After watching the Middlesbrough game, they defended really confidently and they stood up to what Middlesbrough had, but they really struggled for what Charlton had going forward. That Lyle Taylor, for me, run amok for the majority of the game. They couldn't handle his movement, his touching around the box, and his first goal was outstanding. He took the ball quite cleverly inside the box and just fired in from the edge of the box. And you know what I mean? Lee Bowyer gave him the captaincy side, which I thought was a really, really clever move from the manager. And for a manager to do something like that, to see something like that in a player, it can revitalise a player. And you know what I mean? He struggled with his injuries, so this is just giving him that little bit of a boost to push forward. And I was really pleased for him because you know what I mean? He's had such a tough time with injuries with his hamstring and stuff, and to get the first goal was excellent. But then all of a sudden, Luton came back into the game, and I thought it was poor defending by Charlton, letting Cornick, and he fired Luton level just before half time. But and then I fully expected Charlton to get in at half time, Lee to get right into them and have a right go at them and move from there. But it didn't materialise, and Luton, for me, were really lucky that it didn't go ahead because I look at the linesman's position for the offside goal. That you know what I mean, you've got to be 1,000,000% correct with these kind of decisions because obviously the Luton manager came out with the end and said how much of a finance decision that could be, and I felt really sorry for them because if it's offside, it's offside. But he was asking for VAR in the Championship, which would ruin this show because we wouldn't be talking about anything else, and it'd be so frustrating, so annoying. So I'm glad it's not happening and hope it doesn't happen. But for a decision like that, I did feel sorry for him because it could have been the difference between them getting safe and moving away from where they were. But it wasn't to be. It was stayed at 1-1, and then Charlton went down the other end and got a penalty from Collins handball, and Lyle Taylor's penalty technique is just absolutely ridiculous. We spoke about it at the start
out of this world.
And if anybody's not seen his technique, go on YouTube and just type in Lyle Taylor's penalty technique, and you'll see how he walks up to the ball, takes a jump in the air, and just calmly slots the goalkeeper the wrong way. If the goalkeeper goes the right way and the goalkeeper catches it and keeps it out, he probably looks absolutely stupid, but nobody's done it yet. So good luck to him. He had a fantastic game, and to top it off, he held the ball up really well for the third goal, and it was finished off by Lapsey at the far post. And for me, the Lyle Taylor show, and credit to the manager for giving him the captaincy and giving him that responsibility to move forward, because Lee Bowyer has been under pressure and will continue to be under pressure until they get out of it. But if he's given players responsibility and players are responding like he did and others did, then I think they'll be safe as houses come the end of the season.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Lyle Taylor is he's struggled since he came back from his injury, and I think this is probably giving him a lift. And the results of it, he was exceptional. He was playing like he did at the start of the season. Lee Bowyer, I thought, showed his real. We've talked about his tactical nous and how clever he is for someone, for such a young manager. Tactically, he's very, very good. His substitutions changed the game. They put the game to bed. His tactics were very good. I feel for Luton because they had their moments, but they just couldn't quite get it. Johnny Wish said, best football podcast out there, bar none. And he also says, TalkSport, GMS. I don't know who GMS is. TalkSport, Sky, BBC will be coming for you because this is the best championship show out there.
I agree, Johnny.
I agree too. But maybe I'm biased.
Interesting comment there from Gazsai about he says that West Ham were close to signing Lyle Taylor in January, which if he was fit, he would have been a really good signing because obviously
if you look, they signed Jared Bowen, didn't they? So maybe injuries would have
been a factor in that because for West Ham to sign a player who wasn't fit at the time would have been a big risk.
But also shows that and maybe that's why he struggled because he's kind of maybe had his head turned a little bit, or he knows there's Premier League team looking at him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
But then also, I'll throw another comment in then that obviously West Ham signed Jared Bowen. They're looking at Lyle Taylor. Is that the way that the football club's going? Signing championship players? Do you know what I mean? Is that what they're looking at? Are they looking for? Do you know,
I think more clubs should do it. There's a lot of quality championship players out there.
I agree, but look at Cardiff signings last year. Look at Norwich signings this year. They've gone for the best of the championship, and it doesn't always work out. That sometimes you need a mix. You need a good blend.
Yeah,
good blend of it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Charlton looked back to where they were at the start of the season in this game.
I did. Yeah.
I can't remember if it was this game, but there was a couple of really piss poor penalties in the championship this week. Real bad penalties.
But that was one of them. That was one of them. Define handball, Si. You know, what I mean, I've said this. I had this argument in the pub on Saturday about handball. If it hits your hand, it's handball. That's not handball. Handball is unnatural. Your arm being in an unnatural position. You know what I mean? If somebody's kicking the ball at you at 60, 70 mile an hour, how on earth can you get your body out the way? If you turn your back on the ball,
you can't, can you?
Your arm's going to be next to you, or your arm's going to be fronting the ball. If the ball hits your hand, you can't get it out the way. And if you do get it out the way, you're going to put it above your head. That's when your hand and your arms are in an unnatural position. If your hands are by your side, it's not an unnatural position because that's how we all walk. We all walk with our hands by our side. So that's, for me, that's the most natural position. And I'm a little bit uneasy with that rule for me. But,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Because
it's a bit of a ridiculous one. And there was a couple of penalties where players just kind of brushed in between two defenders
fell on the floor,
fell over.
Yeah, fell on the
and
floor,
it's like the referees have got to be stronger.
Yeah,
I'm going to be doing a show on refereeing with their former Premier League referee Keith Hackett soon, which I'm really looking forward to. That's going to be interesting. So, guys, obviously, if there's anything in particular you want me to discuss with Keith, we haven't set like a date or anything at the moment, but he has said that he'll come on and do a show on it. So I'm looking forward to that. So if there's anything in particular you want me to discuss with Keith Hackett or any particular referees and things like that, I just think the referees have got to be a bit stronger and a bit more, make a decision, but make it a realistic and logical decision, not like robots. Oh, it's hit his arms with his handball. No, if you can't get out of the way. It's got to be.
Football's not black and white, is it anymore? It's football's evolved now. It's moved forward. So,
Gaz says, I thought you were talking about VAR and any other business. Did we forget to talk about VAR?
Yeah, I think we did, mate. Yeah.
We'll do it at the end of the show when we do the question and answers because we've got to have a rant about this weekend's VAR because it was poor.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, drop a like on the video and some comments. Help us get the engagement up. Next up, we've got Wigan. Wigan 1, Millwall 0. What a result for Wigan this is. This could really be a season changer for them.
Yeah, well, massively, Si. And you know what I mean? We're on about fine margins. We're on about decisions going for you and going against you. And I thought Millwall started the game really well. They created a couple of early chances, and how they didn't get a penalty for the referee. He gave a free kick on the line, and the line is in the box, so there should have been a penalty. And it's just those fine margins and decisions. And it went for Wigan this week. It was a free kick just outside the box given by the referee, Wallace put the free kick into the goalkeeper, straight in the goalkeeper. But then all of a sudden, for me, second half, Wigan came into the game and it was Pilkington for me. Pilkington started to pull the strings. He was getting on the ball. He was getting a few shots away. He was getting down the line, crossing things in. Jamal Lowe as well, causing all sorts of problems. Pilkington was unlucky not to score a deflected shot. And then Wigan just continued to attack in droves. And Sean Hutchinson scored an own goal after great work by Jamal Lowe. But Kiefer Moore was just about to tap it in. So we spoke about own goal side last week, didn't we? About defenders, what I mean, stopping it. But if he leaves it, he looks stupid because Kiefer Moore's going to tap it in because in your own head, you're trying to clear it. He's not trying to put it in his own goal. And I've got no issues with own goals. You're trying to do the right thing. And he had to do it because if he didn't do it, he would have looked stupid by letting it go because he knows who's behind him. And Kiefer Moore would have got his third goal in 2 games. And then all of a sudden, a point last week at Cardiff and then 3 points against Millwall. It's an absolutely fantastic week for Wigan Athletic, and it shows that they're not dead and buried. You know what I mean? And they're giving themselves an opportunity to get out of it. And obviously with Barnsley winning as well, and Charlton winning as well, and Stoke City winning as well, it drags 4 or 5 more teams into the mire a little bit, and is going to cause a few more supporters and a few more football clubs a few sleepless nights over the course of the season, I think.
Well, I tell you what, mate, everywhere, like the automatic promotion race, the playoff race, the relegation race, there's no one completely run away with anything. There's no one guaranteed. Like there's 4 teams who could probably do automatics, but you don't know which. There's no one team which is guaranteed out of those 4. There's no team other than those kind of 4. There's no one running away, or falling away, should I say, in relegation. Like they're all still within a squeak. It's so interesting. And then you'll have the teams at the bottom will win, and then they'll drag another team down, and the teams just above will drop points, and everyone's it's just it's why it's the best league in the world. Just before we move away from Wigan Millwall, Peaches says that Jed Wallace, best dead ball delivery in the Championship. I concur.
I've got to agree.
Since Peter Whittingham, the great man.
Got to agree. His thing is also he's got the lot for me. He's got pace as well. He's got delivery. He can deliver set pieces. He's got an eye for goal. You know what? He's got an opportunity now to kick his career on and push forward. So good luck to him because he's certainly set the Championship on fire this season. And I'll be very surprised if he's still a Championship player come the end of the season.
Yeah, just mentioning Peter Whittingham. If anyone knows Peter Whittingham personally or has his phone number, please tell him I would like him to come on a podcast and send him my way because he is the great man. Would love to get the Magic Man on.
I'm waiting for a comment. I'm waiting for a comment off Gaz because West Ham have just scored at Liverpool to equalise 1-1.
Yeah, he's disappeared. Where is he?
He must be watching the game.
Yeah, probably. Pilko changed the game.
I agree.
I'm assuming he means that Andy Pilkington.
Yeah,
tremendous serving for Cardiff, Andy Pilkington as well. And
I agree.
Did very well.
For me though, Sai, sorry to interrupt. He looked like a cut above that he was causing so many problems. He just looked like the game was too easy for him. That he looked like a Premiership player in a Championship side or a Championship player in a League One side. He just looked a cut above the rest of the players he's playing with. And you know what I mean? I know he went to play more football, and I fully respect footballers for doing that. So, you know what I mean? It's nice to see, but you know what I mean? He obviously doesn't want to get relegated and go into League One because it'd be a difficult one to get out of next year.
Oh yeah, you look at the size of the teams in the Championship, League One, next year, even in League One and League Two, you got teams like Salford, and you've got teams like Portsmouth and Ipswich. There's massive teams in League Two, League One. Championship next year could be insane. Yeah. And it's just getting harder and harder, which is why I'm so frustrated with the way Cardiff have approached this season, because they've effectively written it off. Next year is going to be even harder. There's going to be more teams with more money, and they just bottled it, and they just lack of organisation. But I can't go down that route yet again. So moving on to the other games, We got the first one: Brentford 2, Blackburn 2. This is there was the penalty. One penalty in this game was just shocking.
Disastrous side, yeah, just disgusting, really. So watching the game, I thought Brentford were excellent. I thought the start of the game really well, but I fully expected that. The players going forward, they create loads of chances, they have loads of shots, they keep possession. They were probably an all-round championship side doing really well, but then all of a sudden, Armstrong scored a very good goal against him in a player. He got himself a penalty to make it 2-0. And then Ollie Watkins scored, for me, one of the goals of the season. I thought it was an excellent goal, and I couldn't really see Walton letting a goal in, because I thought he had another excellent display. He's been fantastic for me for about a month now. And then all of a sudden, the decision, what you just talked about there, the penalty came about for Ben Rama, which he put away. That he's gone through two defenders, and it was Johnson he's touched him at best. He hasn't even put his arm on his shoulder. He's brushed past him, and the lad's gone down. If they're to dive, if he's unbalanced, regardless what it is, if it's not a dive, then it's not a penalty. But it certainly there's no contact, and if there is VAR, it gets crushed straight away. And I wouldn't even say he gets a yellow card for diving, because I didn't even see it as a dive. I just saw he was unbalanced and he went down, but there was just no contact whatsoever. And I felt really sorry for Blackburn, because they probably didn't deserve to get the 3 points, but at the same time, you're 2-0 up against probably the most informed side in the championship, and you're giving them a good run for your money, so that they deserve something from the game. So I'm pleased they held on in the end, because the longer the game went, Brentford kept knocking on the door, creating chances. Ollie Watkins was superb, leading the line really well, and Ben Rama's just a live wire and just gets shots away left, right and centre. And I was really pleased with Tony Mowbray and his Blackburn side that they got a point in the end, because for me, especially after the penalty incident, I think they deserved it.
Yeah, they did. I thought Adam Armstrong was exceptional. I thought Christian Walton was superb. Really, and I tell you what, Blackburn, another team much like Birmingham, not far off at all from really pushing on to that next level. I think they've been really good this year, Blackburn. And Ollie Watkins can't stop scoring, and that goal, what a finish that is! I tell you, that was like Andy Campbell on Saturday.
So I think it's also you need big moments and big players, and for me, he's a big player. He's shown how big he is, and to put to put a comment to put a finish like that at the time, it was excellent, So fair play to them.
I just to say, Sophie, I hope that in about a few months' time, the baby Cams will be wearing like an Andy Campbell show baby grow while she's watching. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have her on a live show. We'll have her on a live show, so that'll go down well, won't it?
Absolutely. Maybe it'll be the one when I come up to Boro to see see the baby.
Yeah.
So Richie says, give us your predictions for 3 going up, 3 going down. We'll do them at the end of the show where we do the question and answers. I'll save it, and we will do it. We won't forget, because we always get through all the questions. So yeah, guys, if you want any questions answered, send them in, and we'll do them all in the question and answers segment. Anything else you wanted to say about that one, the Blackburn game, mate? Ollie Watkins' goal, mate, superb.
Yeah, I just think really good game for the championship. I think we're on about TV games, in early games. You know what I mean? Sometimes we've said about them picking the wrong games, but at the minute they're looking at it's like they're looking at the good games and really picking them. Because I thought Friday night's game was a good game as well. So
yeah. And I just thought it was just a good advert for the championship. Yeah. I watched it. I did think at one point, I thought Brentford looked a bit wobbly defensively. There was like a back pass where Adam Armstrong, the keeper, saved it, but it was brought on by a really bad back pass. And I just think.
But
Brentford looks solid.
We've given Blackburn the plaudits all season, so you know what I mean. They're going to hurt teams. They've got players in their team going forward who are really going to hurt you. And this is a Blackburn side who was missing Lewis Holtby, who was
Adam
missing Dak. You know what I mean? So they're missing some excellent players. You know what I mean? I looked at their injury list. Their injury list is just ridiculous. But they've still
those
got
two you just mentioned have been outstanding all season. They've been so good.
If they can get them
for
back,
them to kick on with those players missing is
if
amazing.
they can get them back for the playoffs, if they can get in the playoffs and get those two players back and flying and fit, then they'll be a massive worry for other teams.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to play him, would you?
No.
Lewis Holtby was really coming into his own, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Next up, Barnsley won. Who were Barnsley, by the way, starting to put together those clean sheets and still scoring those goals. We said all season, if they can keep clean sheets, they'll be able to stay up. They're just getting it together.
Yeah. Embarrassing for me, Si. A Middlesbrough fan, ex-Middlesbrough player. No shots on goal, no shots on target. A real just disastrous display. The manager went for experience. He brought in a couple of the so-called bigger names. Ravel Morrison back in the side, Assombalonga back in the side, Ryan Shotton back in the side, George Friend back in the side. The young players all dropped down to the bench or not in the squad, and I felt for them a little bit because they just lacked energy, they lacked ideas, they're just lacking a bit of guidance in a minute. And the games are coming thick and fast to play Leeds in the week. Barnsley thoroughly deserve that 3 points, and to be fair, the result flattered Middlesbrough a little bit. It should have been more than one, and I thought the goal was outstanding by Chaplin. He was unlucky not to score the first one when he hit the crossbar and it came back and he fired in the rebound. But I was impressed with Barnsley, so I really was. I've seen a lot of highlights of Barnsley, but watching them live, that they had energy, they had pace, they created chances, and I was quite impressed with them defensively. I know all season I've slagged them offside, but I said in pre-season how impressed and I was looking forward about these clean sheets because they had the record number of clean sheets last season. So it's taken them 34 games or 33 games to keep the clean sheets what they need. But if they can keep enough to for the rest of the season, then they've got an opportunity to stay up because they're scoring goals, they're creating chances, they're keeping clean sheets, and that can only be a recipe for success going forward because they've given themselves an unbelievable chance of staying up. Because for me, they were dead and buried, but now they've given them a chance. Are
Boro in danger of dragging themselves back into it, or do you think they've done enough?
We've just said their side. They've dragged themselves into it. You know what I mean? Because
the other teams are winning.
Yeah, it's the last 4 games for me, Si. The Barnsley, the Luton, the Wigan, the Brentford, the Blackburn Rovers. Last 5 games. So Barnsley game is always going to be a tough game because Barnsley had come off a good result. For me, the Luton Town game, you beat Luton Town last week. I think, and I know it's only 3 points. You could lose the rest of the games throughout the season, and you're in real trouble. But it's a 6-pointer, you know what I mean? And to lose 2 6-pointers 1-0 both games, have no shots on target, just becomes a little bit tedious, embarrassing, frustrating. Supporters aren't happy, and rightly so. You know what I mean? They're taking the frustrations out on the manager, and it's hard to listen to. It's hard to take. It's hard to comprehend, really, because you know what I mean. He's trying something new. The club's gone down the route of if it's a cheap option, if it's whatever option it was, but you know what I mean. I'd like him to keep his job to the end of the season, but at the same time, I need that football club in the Championship because you said it earlier, Si. If they go in the League One and the likes of Portsmouth, the likes of Sunderland, the likes of whoever else is going to go down, Wigan might go down, Luton Town might go down. You've got some other teams coming into it. It's going to be just as hard as the Championship to get out of. And sometimes once your team gets embroiled in relegation, it's sometimes really hard to get back out of it. And you know what I mean. I really do fear for Middlesbrough at the minute the way that they're playing and the lack of confidence they are showing. Because they play Leeds United on Wednesday night live on TV. Leeds are going into it really confident to keep the ball really well, to score goals, and they'll bring about 4,000 or 5,000 fans down to the Riverside, and it'll be a well-attended game. But forget about that. It's about results and results only for me at the weekend and the midweek. And they've got to hope that they're not in a worse position come Wednesday night at midnight than they are currently, and that means that Huddersfield don't go ahead of them, and Wigan don't creep up and go level on points with them.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, I went. Gaz made a good point. He said Ravel Morrison needs a run of starts and at least 60 to 75 minutes with each one to find his feet because he hasn't played barely any football for a while.
We
So
said it
he's
last
got
week.
to play him, mate. He's got to play him.
Said it last week, Si. You know what I mean? That how on earth can Ravel Morrison create a chance to score a goal when he's on the bench? It's just absolutely impossible. So for me, he has to play. He played at the weekend. He came off after an hour or so. If that's as much as he can do, then that's as much as he can do. But it's all about him playing football and getting on that pitch and playing as many minutes as he can, because Saturday wasn't good enough for Middlesbrough Football Club, and they need to create more chances. They need to score more goals, and the only way to do that is have your best players playing week in, week out. And if that's Ravel Morrison, then so be it. If you brought him in to play a game, he's got to play. He's got to play. He can't score goals and create chances off the bench.
No, and there's no doubt, and he's got the the ability. They've got to play him. He's almost so talented that if they want him to get up to the level they want him to be at, they've just got to play him for an hour.
Yeah.
For 5-6 games in a row.
Yeah,
and then after he's up to speed, if he's not performing, then you drop him. But for the time being, he's got to play, got to start, got to give him an hour.
Yeah.
And go from there. Get him up to fitness.
Yeah, I totally agree.
He's a game, these are the types of players which are game changers. But
we rave about number 10s. And you know what I mean, on his day he's a match winner, and match winners need to play games and be on the pitch, and it must be frustrating for him at the minute, because you know what I mean, he's left a Premier League side and he's in and out of a Championship side, so he's going to lose heart. He's going to be a little bit annoyed, and he's going to get frustrated, and it's then going to show in his performances. We can't afford that to happen at Middlesbrough, because you know what I mean, they're not in a position where they can afford him to dip his toe in and out, and we need him to hit the ground running straight away, because the club's not in a very good position at the minute.
But that's up to Woodgate to be brave, isn't it? He's got to be brave and pick him.
Yeah, that's any manager. For me, you pick your best side, you go with it and say, this is my best team, these are my best players. If you want to get in, then you force your way into it. But he's my number 10. He's going to play. He's my number 9. He's going to play. Let's get on with it and go forward. Fans back these players, and you get respect that way, don't you, sometimes?
Yeah, spot on, mate. Johnny says that Ravel Morrison could be your Janino.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I've said it all alongside. When he was a young kid, he was really, really good, and I was quite pleased that Middlesbrough signed him, but it hasn't worked out so far, and we need to get a tune out of him. Someone needs to get a tune out of him. Middlesbrough have to get a tune out of him for this to work.
Yep, spot on, mate. Next up, Bristol City 0, West Brom 3.
What on earth's going on with Bristol City?
I could have a little rant about, not a rant, but I can tell you what, Lee Johnson, mate. He cannot be far off getting the sack.
He's a very lucky side. The money he's spent, you know what I mean, and massively underachieving. You know what I mean. He's men against boys at the weekend. I thought for long periods, West Brom just absolutely dominated the game of football. I thought it was going to be a close one. When I saw the fixtures and I seen Leeds were at home to Reading, Bristol City home to West Brom, I thought, oh, there we go. Bristol City will take something off West Brom, and the gap will be closed a little bit. The Brentford will close the gap. Forest will close the gap, and it'll be a lot tighter. It'll give us something to talk about on Monday night's show. And it was just men against boys. And I thought Robinson got a little bit of luck. Callum Robinson got a little bit of luck with his goal. He was 1-on-1. He shot. Goalkeeper made a decent save, and then it hit him in the head and went in. But sometimes you earn your luck, side, because I thought the second goal was an awful decision by the goalkeeper, mistake by the goalkeeper. Robson Kanu got that goal to 2-0 up at half time, and a little bit disappointed with the Sawyer's red card. And part of me
weird when that was.
I looked at it in two things. That obviously him and Patterson played together at Walsall. I don't know if there was history or what, but he grabbed him by the throat. He didn't strike him. He didn't. You know what I mean? I've never seen anyone get sent off for that. But the referee saw it as a straight red card. He got a red card. And then for me, the last goal was, I guess it was a mistake. I know you're going to go on about it later on, but Robson Kanu, the finish was just out of this world. It just showed he's full of confidence, and And I just looked at the squad side from West Brom at the weekend. That you've got Robinson on one wing, you've got Pereira on the other, you've got Robson Kanu. The midfield, Livermore, Sawyer's running the midfield. Defensively, they look solid. Johnson, he's been promoted. He's been there. He's wore the t-shirt. You've got Kyle Barkley on the bench. You've got Grzycki on the bench. You've got Phillips on the bench. You've got Dean Garner wasn't playing. Charlie Austin on the bench didn't get on. It just shows strength and depth that teams must look at that starting lineup and squad and think, what chance have we got when we're 2-0 down or we're 3-0 down against 10 men, and you've got all these players on the bench who would make a difference for us, and all of a sudden you're fighting a losing battle. And we said about West Brom that we fully expect them to go and kick on and push forward, and now I can't see anybody catching them. I think they've got a 9-point gap over third place, and for me, I expect West Brom to kick on even further now and probably push on to win the title. Now they've got 2 home games in the league against Preston and Wigan, and for me, if they win them 2, I see them pushing on further and further forward.
Hal Robson-Kanu, it's interesting. He's not the quickest, not the best player, not the most technically gifted, but he seems to hold everything together for West Brom.
Yeah.
You've got your Pereiras and your what's the winger called? I forget his name. Matty Phillips, isn't it?
Matty Phillips, yeah.
But he seems to he links up the play well. He's always in that 6-yard area between the posts to mop up any rebounds. His finishing is pretty good. Bristol City are just completely... We said Sheffield Wednesday gone off a cliff. Bristol City even worse. And what makes it so bad with Bristol City? Bristol City spent a fortune and have a huge squad. You'll see Lee... mine's gone blank. You'll see the manager, like Lee Johnson, just reeling off a load of cliches about injuries and this and that. But the fact is, they've got a massive squad. They've spent a fortune. They've brought in players on loan as well, and they're just not any good. They're dreadful.
So you don't see Tony Mowbray complain about injuries, do you? And he's lost his 2 best players. You don't see.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Middlesbrough weren't complaining about losing Britt Assombalonga and losing other players. You know what I mean? Injuries are part and parcel of a season. You know what I mean? So using that as an excuse why you're not in the top 6 is just, for me, it's a cowardly way out. You know what I mean? That Neil Harris is not. He's not complaining about the injury to Lee Tomlin. You know what I mean? He's not happy with it. He's telling everybody it is what it is. And you know what I mean? Yes, the teams are going to miss your best players, but end of the day, when you've got a squad like Bristol City you've got and the money that they've spent, then they're massively underachieving. You know what I mean? They're still behind the sides who haven't really spent a lot of money. You know what I mean? You look at Preston North End, you know what I mean, in 6th place, you know what I mean? They're 3 points ahead of them. And they fell off a little bit, Preston. You know what I mean? They had a really bad spell, and slowly and surely they're kicking back onto it. And Nottingham Forest above them as well. Blackburn just below, pushing the pressure on Swansea City, Cardiff City, Millwall. You know what I mean? Bristol City are going to be under a lot of pressure come the end of the season to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. And, they Bristol City signed Naki Wells. And when West Brom had the lad sent off, it's 2-0. And you're thinking, right, Bristol City got to come really go for it now.
Yeah.
And Ashley Williams just a lazy header back to the keeper, which gives Robson-Kanu the chance, and Bristol just their own worst enemy. But it's down to the manager. The manager's got to take the blame. And I do believe if it was any other manager at any other club in the Championship, he would be under a massive amount of pressure, if not already gone, because their performances over the last month or 2 have been piss poor. Just lastly on that, Johnny says Hal Robson-Kanu to the Euros for Wales.
Well, I mentioned it last week, so didn't I? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't put him in because obviously the retirement and what he said. You know what I mean? But if Ryan Giggs went up to him and said to him, "Listen, I want you to lead my," you know what I mean? He's not going to go as a squad player because I don't see the point in coming out of retirement if you're not going to play. You know what I mean? If Ryan came out and said to Hal that you're going to be my number 9, you're going to lead the line, that he'd do it tomorrow because, you know what I mean, he's passionate obviously about his country, and he's obviously had an excellent tournament last time around. So I fully expect, you know what I mean, maybe someone to ask that question, because why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? If he's playing that well and he's scoring goals and do what he's doing for West Bromwich Albion, then surely he can have a little dabble in the summer.
Who else would Wales play up front?
Kiefer
As
Moore,
that number 9.
Keith.
I mean, yeah, Kiefer Moore. You could play Bale up front. Or Peaches just asked Kiefer Moore or Hal Robson-Kanu. Now that's an interesting one. So on current form in the Championship, you'd go with Hal Robson-Kanu, but Kiefer Moore has been outstanding for Wales when he's played for gigs, recently. So it's a bit.
I thought he did okay on Saturday as well against Millwall, but I thought he was excellent against Cardiff. You know what I mean? So it's I don't know. If you put Hal Robson-Kanu in that Wigan side, will he score? Will he score the goals? What he's scoring now? He's playing with better players. You know what I mean? If Kiefer Moore was playing in a better side, if Kiefer Moore was leading Cardiff's attack, would he score more goals? I believe so, because I believe what he's done for Wales, like you said, that he's playing with better players. He's getting more balls into him, better balls, better quality players in and around him. That he's going to raise his game a little bit, and I believe that he saw. But he's doing it in a lesser side, in a side which is scraping points together, left, right, and centre. Yeah,
definitely. Next up, Leeds 1, Reading 0. Lucky Leeds, we'll call them this week. Lucky.
I just look at how many chances they create. It's ridiculous, and the amount of goals that they don't score is quite scary. Really.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? The chances they miss are just disastrous. You know what I mean? It's the easy ones they miss, and then they go and score one of the harder ones, because the goal that they scored through Hernandez probably shouldn't have gone in. You know what I mean? They try to walk the ball in at times, and I just don't understand it. But then the hardest shot of the game, when Hernandez just smashes the ball in the top corner, it's got to be a world class goal at the minute for Leeds to win a game, and then all of a sudden they're hanging on, and Reading probably could have got and should have got something from the game, but on stats, on possession, on shots on goal, there's only one winner, and Leeds probably deserved it on the game, but sometimes stats are irrelevant when, you know what I mean, you're only winning 1-0 and Reading are piling the pressure on, and then your goalkeeper pulls out a save last couple of minutes to keep you in the game, because if that goes in, that would have been a disastrous result for Leeds, because he probably would have handled the title to West Brom. It would have been a great result, i.e. for the chasing pack, because obviously Brentford lost points early doors, but with them hanging on side, it proves an even bigger result, because obviously with Brentford dropping points and with Fulham dropping points on Friday night, it just puts that little bit of daylight and a little bit of a gap in between, because obviously both Fulham and Brentford drawing over the weekend, and with Leeds win, and it gives them an opportunity to just to have a little bit of a gap, and then they need to go to Middlesbrough on Wednesday night and go and get another huge 3 points, really.
Yeah, definitely, mate. The thing is, it wasn't just it wasn't Paddy Bamford this week. It was everyone.
It wasn't just one player. Yeah, it was a mixture, but they just haven't got that personal side to go score. I just don't expect anybody to go and score 20 goals for the rest of the season or 15 goals for the rest of the season. It's just, you know what I mean. They brought Augustin in to go and lead the line side. He's on the bench. He didn't get on. You know what I mean. He's come in. He's come in from Monaco. He's played 20 minutes against Nottingham Forest. He played 15 minutes against Brentford. He played 16 minutes against Leeds, and he didn't get on against Reading. If you're gonna bring a player in of that caliber, you've got to play him. We've just said about Ravel Morrison. If he's going to be your number 9 moving forward, then just stick him in the team and give him an opportunity. Don't
let him bed in.
Yeah, how does he feel now? You know what I mean? He's watching the sides create chances, and he could be the man to put those chances away, but he's not given the opportunity.
Yeah, Leeds are massively dependent on their midfielders scoring goals because their strikers don't take the chances.
Yeah.
And by the way, Nekataya scored for Arsenal.
I know, seen it.
Couldn't get a game for Leeds.
No.
But there you go. Oh, there you are. Gaz says that Glick, great player. He is. He's superb. He went off the boil a little bit over Christmas, but he just runs games. Quality player.
Dominates.
Wouldn't be surprised to see him in the Premier League one way or the other next year. Next up, I think it was the only 0-0 of the weekend in the Championship. Forest QPR 0-0.
I was
deal going on in this.
I couldn't believe it was 0-0 side, because I don't know if people have seen the disallowed goal, and rules are rules.
Shocking.
But the ball's rolled a couple of millimeters.
It's the wind as well, isn't it? It's not even like he's thrown it down and
like
it's not his fault.
He's not trying to get an advantage. It's just, you know what I mean. So fair play to the linesman to notice that, because nobody else in the ground even noticed it. Even the cameraman didn't notice it until later on. So, you know what I mean. Yeah, nothing really happened. I thought Nottingham
Joe Lolly was good.
Yeah, Nottingham Forest created a few chances. Joe Lolly was unlucky not to score right at the death, right at the end. QPR had a couple of long-range free kicks. Eze was sharp throughout, but you know what I mean. It's probably the most surprising result that it was 0-0 side, because Nottingham Forest always seem to score, and QPR always score and let goals in. So, you know what I mean. It's quite surprised that both of those teams didn't either score or let goals in, because they've both been renowned for it so far this season.
Yeah, Thiago Silva as well was pretty good in midfield, scheming away. But yeah, 0-0. Next up, Preston 2, Hull City 1.
I think Preston obviously did this the hard way. First half, they were probably the Hull deserved their lead through Wilkes. Went 1-0 ahead. Another side who couldn't defend. And then I think this is one of those penalties what you were talking about as well. So obviously a couple of nice substitutions for Preston. Gallagher came on, and took an unbelievable penalty. I love his technique of penalty, that he puts his foot through it and smashes it as hard as he can down the middle, and the goalkeeper
the outside of his foot as well.
Yeah, the keeper still stood there and didn't get anywhere near it. So fair play to him. And then I thought the second goal by Brown was excellent as well. Great ball by Stockley, and Brown was there to head home. And I thought Hull were decent. I thought, you know what I mean, they've probably surprised me over the last couple of weeks, that, you know what I mean, that they drew 4-4 last week, and we said they were really worried about them, and I thought they defended really well against a good Preston side for long periods. But, you know what I mean, I think the penalty didn't help them, and they made a few mistakes towards the end, and it came back to cost them. But for Preston's point of view, side, it was a great result, well needed, great timing with Fulham, Brentford, and Nottingham Forest, and Bristol City and Blackburn all dropping points. So it gave them an opportunity to cement that playoff place a little bit.
Yeah, indeed. Sorry, mate, I've just clicked off my list. What was I going to say? Yeah, I thought Maddock Wells, obviously, he scored a good goal for Hull.
Yeah,
and I really like him as a player. I think he's very, very good. Substitutions change the game.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Again,
brave calls. Yeah, brave calls.
And you know, we'll talk about it. Penalty was absolute disgrace again.
Yeah, rubbish. It's just soft. Yeah, soft decisions. You've got to be brave as a referee. But I think just before that penalty side, there was a more blatant penalty which he didn't give, and it was the third phase of play. And I believe he gave that because he didn't give the other one, and he was just waiting for something to happen. And unfortunately, that happens, and it was so frustrating for your team. And I felt so sorry for Hull, because if, you know what I mean, just fine margins again, just change games. And unfortunately, they couldn't see that little phase of play out and get the ball clear. And then Preston were like a steam train in the end, and it was only one team going to win that game then.
Indeed. So, guys, there's just the 2 games left, 2 South Wales teams matches, and then we're going to go for our 2 for 2s and our questions. So, if you have got any more questions, send them in the live chat on YouTube and Facebook. They all come up on our screens, and I'll add them in. And we're also going to talk about VAR, which we forgot to talk about at the start, to finish off, and then we'll have the best segment in radio, podcast, and TV, the fake Geordie bingo lingo. So, next up, Stoke City 2, Cardiff City 0. Take it away, my friend.
To be honest, I thought Cardiff started a little bit better. I've been very critical on the way that they start and the way that they've started, but I thought they were a little bit better, a little bit brighter out the blocks. But when you give teams goals, then that's your concern. You know what I mean? It wasn't a mistake by Callum Patterson. It was him and Powell were both wrestling in the box for a set piece, and then all of a sudden, you know what I mean, Powell misses it, hits Callum on the leg and diverts in the goal, and you know what I mean. And I think after that, it was a difficult one really to take, because you know what I mean. It was a few half chances in between both sides really, but it's fine margins. And when you go 1-0 down against a side like Stoke, you know what I mean? Especially now they've got a decent manager in place that can be very stubborn. And I don't think it helps with the ex-Swansea connection and Joe Allen getting the second goal. And you know what I mean? But I don't think Cardiff deserved anything from the game. Even Neil came out and said that they were second best all over the pitch, that they didn't deserve anything from the game. But they need to learn. They need to learn fast. And you go into Stoke, you know it's going to be a fight. You know it's going to be a battle. There's history between the two football clubs. You know what I mean? And they're desperate for points. And if they're desperate for points, you need to make sure that you're fighting for every ball and your tactics are spot on. Everyone knows their jobs. And straight away from set pieces side, that everybody does their job correctly. And, you know, we've said that Cardiff are probably the biggest side in the Championship, but they're probably letting the most goals from set pieces. And it just doesn't add up and it shouldn't happen. And unfortunately, you know what I mean? We keep talking about the same thing. And Cardiff need to get back to basics, because we spoke about the two previous games against Luton and Huddersfield being positive results, but I think the last two we've dropped massive points, you know what I mean? Because Wigan for me was 2 points dropped, and Saturday I probably would have been happy with a point, but you know what I mean, the way that the Wigan game went, I think Cardiff needed all three to keep pushing forward and moving in the right direction, but it wasn't to be.
Mate, I don't even know where to start with Cardiff. They were very poor. It's down to the manager. He sets the tactics and the tempo. Yet again, standing off, no pressing. I know you say they started relatively well, but I just think they were just generally very poor. No creativity without Tomlin. No. Shock horror. Yeah. We got three of the best headers of the ball in our defensive ranks in the squad, probably even four in the whole league. Yet we can't defend set pieces. Jazz Richards has had an absolute nightmare for the Joe Allen goal. He's got turned inside out. He's got to get rid. And, you know, and when that ball's ricocheted and it's broken off the rebound and it falls to Joe Allen eventually, you know, someone's got to just go steaming through that and put their foot through it. Yeah. You know, whether Morrison or someone like this has just got to say, that's my ball. No one's getting it, and smash it away. Or the keeper's got to do it. You know, Alex Smithies has been very good. He made some good saves.
Yeah, he did. He did.
But, you know, someone's got to take charge, which is bizarre, because when you look at those defenders that Cardiff have got, on paper, you'd say there's a couple of leaders there. You know, your Morrisons, your Flints, your Nelsons. They're all quite vocal, big, strong centre-backs who take charge. But, yeah, I'm not impressed with, you know, Cardiff had a bit of an uptick in form, but this was back to the piss poor, as it were.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to take, because you know what I mean, after some quite positive results, and then obviously you lose your most influential player, and then you know what I mean, that's what the performance just smelt of. It just smelt of desperation. It smelt of who's going to be our talisman now? Who do we look up to? Who do we look for to when we've got the ball? And it was just so depressing to watch. And you know what I mean, it was never going to be an easy game, because the history goes back with Cardiff and Stoke. You know what I mean, quite a long time, and they're always going to be up for a game to beat Cardiff City. They'll enjoy that more than anybody.
Yeah, I thought Joe Allen had a really, really good game. I thought he was very good. I've got massive problems with just the way Cardiff set up, their intensity in games, their attitude. And I'm not having the excuse that, we've lost Tomlin, that's why we're not going to get in the playoffs. I'm not having that, because, like I said right at the start of the show, that's down to poor preparation, because Lee Tomlin was third choice number 10 attacking midfielder when the season started. So if he's third choice, why are we so dependent on him now?
Yeah, I totally agree. So I just think the thing is also, and this has been my concern when we spoke about Cardiff in the Reading game, that you get too caught up sometimes in certain players, and all Reading seemed to do in that game in particular was just mark Lee Tomlin out of the game, and Cardiff just lacked ideas, and you know what I mean, and sometimes that's how injuries come, because players have to try that a little bit harder, or you know what I mean, that you're getting some bad tackles on certain individuals, and You know what I mean? And unfortunately, you know what I mean, he's obviously going to miss now a big chunk of the season going forward, and someone now has got to step up. And you know, obviously, I know Joe Rawls is on his way back, hopefully, and I'm going to be back to full fitness as soon as possible. And you know what I mean, we need Joe to step up to the plate straight away and really hit the ground running, because we need somebody. We need a talisman from somebody, and Joe does have goals coming from midfield, and we need that because we're not getting goals from many other places at the minute.
Indeed. And then finally we had Swansea. I think it was, I've gone off it. I'm putting all the questions into one place, so I'm trying to do that.
Swansea, Huddersfield 3-1, yeah. To be fair, I thought Swansea started really well. AU scored a typical AU goal, and he just seems to be in the right place at the right time and gets in behind and scored a very good goal. And to be fair, they dominated the game for long periods, especially in the first half, that the shot after shot after shot, but they didn't get that second goal, and sometimes it can come and bite on the backside. And Mooney equalised for Huddersfield. What cross shot? I probably think it was probably a cross. Nobody got on the end of it, but it ended up in the far corner. And I thought Huddersfield, that was going to be an unbelievable result. It was going to be an unbelievable result for Cardiff for the top six. It was going to be an unbelievable result down the bottom end, because obviously all the other teams were winning. But they just couldn't hold on. A couple of minutes later on, Fulton got the goal, and then Garrick scored a very tidy finish after a Gallagher through ball, took around the goalkeeper to finish off. And I can't work Swansea outside me, because they play some unbelievable stuff at home. And then, you know what I mean, like last week now, that if they'd have held on to that result last week at Hull, then there would have been another 2 points. They obviously dropped another 2 points the week before against QPR, and they would have been sitting inside the playoffs very comfortably with a couple of bad results. But you know what I mean, take nothing away from this result. It's a fantastic result against for me, a good side, and regardless where the league tables don't lie, but Huddersfield are there for a reason. But you know what I mean, Huddersfield are in such a better position now than they were when we were talking after about 15, 16 games, because they were dead. They were dead and buried.
Like they were gone.
And they've given themselves an unbelievable chance to get out of it, and I do believe they will. But you know what I mean, they're always going to get a tough game, and Swansea away is never going to be easy. You know what I mean? They're unpredictable at the best of times, but you know what I mean. When they're going forward, they're excellent, but defensively, they can still find little holes and gaps for teams to capitalise, and hopefully that can happen again.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Okay, that's the games, guys. So, like, last chance now to send in some questions as we finish off. We're going to give our 2 for 2s now. Then we're going to answer the questions. Then we're going to talk VAR. And then we'll do the fake Geordie bingo lingo to finish. Okay, we've got for your first down, mate.
My first down, I've gone for Daniel Bentley for his fumble for his second goal. I just thought it was just against who have I gone for? Who have I gone for here? Who have I gone for here? Sorry, let me start that one again.
No, you're right.
I'm sorry, I've gone first down. I've gone referee decision in Luton versus Charlton game and the Wigan Millwall game. So Luton's goal got ruled out. You know what I mean? And the Millwall penalty. And I just thought referees and linesmen need to be 100%, because these decisions now can be relegation threatened or promotion threatened. I mean, every game at the minute seems like it's got something on the game, and you know, I think it's such big decisions and big calls that these kind of decisions need to be. They need to make sure that they get them 100% right.
Yeah, spot on, mate. So I've gone for my first down. I've gone for Ashley Williams. He was off, I thought, all game. Wasn't very good. And then just after West Brom had their players sent off and could have really tried to get back into the game, he's tried to do like a fancy back header to the keeper from 20 yards from the wing. And it's like, oh, what are you doing? It was a dreadful decision, dreadfully executed. And then Hal Robson-Kanu, he's got a lot to do. Great finish. But, you know, Ashley Williams should not be taking that risk. At that period in the game, it's 2-0. There's 15 minutes to go. They've just had a player sent off. Don't take a risk.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't under pressure where he had to header it.
No, he could have kicked it out of play.
He could have brought it down.
Yeah,
like Hal Robson-Kanu was far enough away from him for him to bring it down. It was really poor decision making. And as a Welsh fan, that's worrying. Okay. And who you got next, mate?
I've got him the same game, so I've gone Daniel Bentley, the goalkeeper for Bristol City, for the second goal, for Hull's first goal. I just thought a fumble, you know what I mean? He just didn't look comfortable all afternoon, the goalkeeper. He made some half-decent saves later on in the game, but you know what I mean? It's the pivotal goals in pivotal games, and that second goal is crucial. And just before half-time, and to fumble a corner and give a player of his calibre an easy goal is just criminal, really.
Yeah. So I've gone for my second one. It'd be no surprise. I apologise to Bristol fans because it is another Bristol-related person. It's not personal. It's just that these two people caught my eye. I've gone for Lee Johnson. He's tactically, I think he's been dreadful recently, and I thought at weekend he was awful, trotting out the cliches in defence of his awful management recently, and just his general attitude and demeanour. I find him to be a bit arrogant and a bit thing, and like when you're performing the way Bristol City are, don't really think you need to have that arrogant attitude, and they were rubbish. And that's down, the buck stops with the manager, I'm afraid.
Yeah, totally agree.
Okay, who got for your first up?
My first up, I've gone for Captain Lyle Taylor. I thought he led by example. Two very good goals for different reasons. To calmly slot his penalty away at 1-1, really under pressure. The way that the game's gone, but you know what I mean. Credit for the manager giving the captain's armband, but he responded really well, led by example, and he will be the talisman, I believe, to keep them up just by his performances and his goals alone. And hopefully he stays fit. His injuries are well behind him, because I love watching him play, and hopefully there's more to come, and we can keep talking about him and raving about him.
Yeah, so I've gone for my first. That was a really good choice, by the way. He was on my list, my short list. My first one I've gone for is Walton in goal for Blackburn. I thought he was absolutely outstanding.
My last few
and
months,
gotta say, Alex Armstrong was, he was there. He was on my list. He scored 2 goals. Could have had a hat trick. He was outstanding also for Blackburn. But I just felt Walton made a couple of saves, which were just fantastic, and he kept them in the game against West Brom, and they've gone on to get a point against a very strong West Brom side.
Yeah.
So well done him. So you got for next one,
my second one, I've gone for Reece Burke for Hull City in the Hull Preston game, and he made a clearance off the line, and I'm not really sure how he did it. It was just unbelievable how he's done it. He shouldn't. It just defies logic, really, how he did it. But it was just absolutely fantastic. And the way that Hull were defending, and the way that the game was going, I just thought he deserved a mention, because for me, it just showed that how much. I wrote them off a few weeks ago and said that about that they've lost the best players going forward. But when you've got somebody like a heart of Reece had on Saturday and try and put his body on the line to clear that ball, I felt so sorry for him and the rest of the defenders with the penalty, because that changed the game a little bit. But his clearance alone deserves a little mention.
I've gone for Alex Neil and Lee Bowyer for their decisive substitutions, which won their teams their games. And I think, you've got to be brave sometimes if you need the goals. And like, I think in the Lee Bowyer's game, I think it was 2-1.
Yeah.
So rather than making a defensive substitution, he's made an attacking substitution and won the game 3-1 and made that right. He's not going all guns blazing, but he's been positive. And I think that sends a message to your players not to drop deep and, soak up the pressure and just hold on for 2-1. Let's go and put the game to bed. Same with Alex Neil. Fantastic. Yeah. And then, there's a few managers who couldn't take note of that. Like, Cardiff and Boro, for instance, their substitutions are like clockwork. Yeah. Same substitutions at the same time every week. Yeah. And it's like, be a bit more imaginative.
You've got to be brave, Simon. You've got to make these brave decisions, because there's no point looking back in hindsight and saying, I wish I'd have done this, You know what I mean? It's here and now, and you know what I mean. They're making them brave calls on split decisions, split-second decisions, and you know what I mean. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But when they do, it looks like masterstrokes, and they did at the weekend for those two, especially.
Yes, and the thing is, mate, how many times have we said like Warnock and Harris and Woodgate, they make the same substitutions like 60 minutes in,
Yeah, well,
this
we're
person for this person.
We did that. We said that about Bielsa. That Bielsa used to do it with Paddy Bamford.
Yeah.
Just bring him off, bring him off. You know what I mean? So it's the best managers in the league's done it. So it's yeah. Sometimes
lacks
you need
imagination.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so that's the ups, that's the downs. Let's get into some questions. You guys can send your questions every week to myself and Andy, facebook.com/ACEcastNation. Please follow while you're there. Or Twitter @ACEcast_nation, which is where we're most active in terms of conversation. And you can also email, if you still use email, like some people do. You can email acenetworkcontact@gmail.com. And of course, you can drop some in the live chat as the show is going along. If I did miss any questions, there's quite a few live chats because I've got the live chat from YouTube and Facebook merged. So if I've missed any questions when I go through them now, obviously quickly send them in. Or if you haven't seen them now, then send them to me in the week and we'll do them next week, if that makes sense. Okay, so first of all, we had Peaches sent a question earlier on, which said, what was the biggest bollocking you ever had as a player and what? No, sorry, that wasn't Peaches. That was JD who sent that over a text. What was the biggest bollocking you ever had as a player and why?
Oh, biggest bollocking I've had as a player. It was probably doing something I shouldn't have been doing. It was by Chris Wilder when I played for Halifax Town, so it was towards the end of my career. I got sent off at Burton Albion for calling the ref cheating. See you next Tuesday. And to be fair, it was a red card. I was 1-on-1. Lad brought me down. Didn't even get a free kick, so I lost me rag a little bit and said something I shouldn't have done. Got myself a red card. Obviously a 3-game suspension. The manager told me in the changing room after how much I'd let him down, the team down, the fans down, the family down, my friends down, everybody else down. He didn't say it that nicely because Chrissy Wilder didn't split hairs or graces. He did it the right way, and I fully respected him for it. And I made sure that the next 3 games when I was watching from the stand that I planned my comeback in the correct manner and made sure that I kept that football club up because I owed him and everybody else because I'd made that fundamental error a few weeks back.
Got a bit of a fiery streak, mate. You haven't you? You get sent off for Cardiff for doing something similar.
Me and Willie Boland got sent off at Crystal Palace for Willie was having a bit of a ding dong, and I got involved and I took a swing at Sean Derry and got a straight red. So yeah. It was more of a slap. You know, it's
slapper.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Ian said, "Has the Cardiff City playoff bubble burst?"
I think it's going to be. I'll take something out of the ordinary for Cardiff to get in the playoffs for me. You're going to have to go on some run to cement that place because you can look at the league table, Si, and you can say that they're not many points behind. Obviously, which they're not. It's only 6 points, and they've still got 12 games to go. But there's a bigger picture than that for me. You know what I mean? It's the teams above them, the teams in and around them. Are they in form? Have they got more to offer than Cardiff have got? For me, I think it's going to take a hell of an effort for them to cement a playoff place. I hope to do, but I just can't see it with the teams in and around them at the minute.
Yeah, the teams around them and the fact they've lost Tomlin, I just can't see where the creativity is coming from. And like I had that rant at the start of the show on about Cardiff's lack of preparation and
everything's going against them. Everything's going against them. I even look at Derby in 13th side and see Derby are 5 points behind Cardiff. Derby at the minute for me have got more to offer going forward than Cardiff.
Blackburn, mate.
You know what I mean?
You look at Blackburn, the way they're playing compared to where Cardiff are playing going forward.
Yeah.
There's no comparison, mate.
Yeah, and this is it, Si. You know what I mean? We love Cardiff to bits, but we're honest as well, and you know what I mean. That I just can't say. I can't see it. You know what I mean? I'd love them too, and I hope they do, but for me, it's too much of a big ask.
Yeah, well, the thing is, mate, it's what you get when you try and do it on the cheap, like they did in the summer and in January, and that lack of preparation is going to ultimately cost them.
Yeah, totally
unless they do something special.
Totally agree.
Richie Thomas asked earlier, give us your prediction for 3 to go up and 3 to go down for the Championship.
West Brom for me, Leeds for me, and I've got to stick with Fulham because I said that. So I'll go for the top 3 now. So it'll be Fulham in the playoffs, Leeds second, and West Brom will win the title for me. What about you, Si? Before I go for the 3 down,
I got West Brom and Leeds going up automatic. I think West Brom will win the title, and I think that the playoff winners will be. I'm going to go for something really outrageous, and I think that the playoff winners will be Derby County.
Derby County. Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, I'm going to do something with
the reason I say that, sorry, is because they're the ones who've got to run. When I look at all those teams now, from say 3rd down to 14th, they're the ones who are on a run, and they've got the quality. Where Rooney's on fire. If Rooney stays fit, I could see them being the ones who just sneak in the playoffs on the last day and then go and win it.
Yeah,
Fulham will bottle it, by the way.
Well, on me 3 downs, I'm gonna go with me heart than me head. I'm gonna go Luton Town. I'm gonna go Wigan, and I'm gonna go left field here. I'm gonna go Hull City, and I'm gonna go Hull City because of the fixtures that are coming up. They've got Barnsley in a couple of days' time. Then they play Leeds, then they play Stoke, then they play Charlton, then they play Birmingham, and then they play Middlesbrough. So their next 6 games will define their season. If they don't get enough points in the next 6 games, they'll go down. Because after that, they play the majority of the teams above them. And then they finish last game of the season at Cardiff City. And if Cardiff are in and around it, or Hull need to go to Cardiff to go and get something, it's not the kind of place you want to go and try and get a result, because Cardiff will enjoy putting teams down, and because teams have enjoyed doing it to Cardiff and killing games. So, you know what I mean? Cardiff, it's not a nice place. It won't be a nice place for Hull to go. So I'm going to go Hull for my 3rd one.
Yeah, I've got Luton going down.
Yeah.
I think Barnsley will stay up.
Yeah.
And I want Barnsley to stay up because they've played such great football. But I also think Wigan are going to stay up. I've just seen something in Wigan in the last couple of weeks. They've got a bit of fight in them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Luton. I'm going to go Stoke. And I'm going to go Huddersfield because I don't want to say Borough. But I think Borough...
I thought you were going to say it then.
I think Borough, I've got to say, are bang in trouble, mate.
I
because I look at the 3 teams below them and I see that they're all playing quite well.
Yeah. There's teams that I wouldn't want to go down. I think Stoke won't go down because they've got too much. I don't want Huddersfield to go down because I think the Cowley brothers have done great.
Yeah.
Obviously, the reasons behind Middlesbrough, I don't want to go down, and then we're.
Oh, I don't want those teams to go down, but I think they're the ones who are going to go.
And then I'm looking above me, and I'm thinking, you've got to win 7. You've got to win 8 to 10 points to drag them into it, and they've got to lose all them games. So it's going to be a big ask for some of them to get out of it.
I said about a month ago, maybe a bit longer, that my long shot, because I think someone asked us to do like a long shot bet for the end of the season, and I said when Blackburn were about 14th that they would get in the playoffs, and I stick by that. I think they still could. Another long shot for the playoffs, very, very long shot, but like we both said about Derby, Birmingham. I think if they can get those young players to be a bit consistent in this last chunk of the season, they're playing well. They got some great players. Wouldn't be surprised to see them up there, even if they don't quite make the playoffs. And Richie, who asked the question, said he thinks it's going to be Luton, Barnsley, and Hull.
Luton's, Barnsley, and Hull. Yeah, he's gone.
Peaches asks, have you ever witnessed bullying in changing room or on the training pitch?
Bullying. I wouldn't call it bullying. I'd probably call it making what I'm going to tell you now. Story I'm going to tell you now is probably like making a man out of you. So it's like people might say it as bullying. So when I was a young YCS, so 16 years old, just left school. Every Christmas we had to sing a song in front of the first team, and the worst. So you stand in the middle of the changing room floor with a pretend microphone in your hand. 30, 40 first team lads would sit around you, throwing things at you and shouting things at you while you're trying to sing a song. And then the worst singer would have to run around the the football pitch outside with everybody watching you, and you'd have to do it naked. So it wouldn't be. It's like a form of a form of bullying, but it's a form of like making a man out of you as well. Like you've got to make sure that you know what I mean. So, but I wouldn't say bullying, no, because I think sometimes things are there to test you, and I think people do these things to really try and it's like make or break, and people do it because that's what it is.
Fair enough. And final question was, I've lost it now. God damn it! Oh, who was the best reserve team player that you ever saw play at like a club you made, but who didn't necessarily make the progression to the first team?
Well, there's one who sticks out like a sore thumb, because for me, he was potentially going to be one of the best players I'd ever played with, and he played in the first team a couple of times, but it was Carlos Marinelli at Middlesbrough. I played with Carlos. He came over from Argentina at 18, and I've never played with a young player like him in all my life. It was like playing with like a mini Messi or a little Janino. That every time I played a game at Bolton Wanderers away at the Reebok Stadium, and everywhere I ran, his ball went to me. I've never played a game like it. That he set me up 5 times. I scored 5 goals that night, and if it wasn't for him, I probably would have had a poor game. But he set all my 5 goals up. He was just an absolute world beater, and I've just it never really made the grade in England, and went back to Argentina. It never really happened for him.
Fair enough. Good shout. So that's questions, guys. You can always send questions in for us in the live chat or the different ways that I mentioned. During any other business earlier, we had said before the show we were going to talk about VAR because there's obviously it's gone off again this weekend. So Andy, I'll let you take that away, mate.
I just don't like it, Si. I just don't like the way it's used. I don't like. It's just a terminology. Nobody knows what's right and what's wrong anymore. Even pundits, and you know what I mean. Richard Keys is obviously a hater. I follow him on Twitter, and some of the things that he comes out with are just some of the decisions. It's the fine margins decisions, and it's the. I watched the Chelsea game, and it was Giroud's goal, and they celebrate the goal, and then VAR look at the goal, and then nobody celebrates the goal properly. And that's the biggest thing for me, that Frank Lampard celebrated the goal twice, and then watching the same game, I seen a tackle by was it Harry Winks right in the touchline in front of Frank Lampard and Jose Mourinho, and how Harry Winks only got a yellow card for that. It was a leg breaking tackle, and I saw it in live play, and I called it a red card straight away. VAR watched it, or must have watched it for about 3 minutes, and then they came back with nothing. Came back with a yellow card. If that's a yellow card, then I don't know what's a red card. It was a leg-breaking horror tackle. I'm not saying he did it on purpose, but you make a mistake, you live and die by the sword. And you know what I mean? For me, I just thought it was a disgusting. Who's making that decision, side? Because if I was VAR, I would have sent him off. So, but you're asking one person's opinion. And that one person's opinion who sat in the studio, I would have rather the referee gone to the side of the pitch and watched that again, so he can make his own mind up. And if he thought it was a red card, make that decision yourself. Don't rely on somebody else. If you didn't think it was, then at least you've watched it and you've made the decision yourself. I just think at the minute, there might as well be a robot or a dog on the pitch refereeing the game and just letting somebody else do it, because it's just a joke, an absolute joke. I just don't understand it.
Well, the thing is, the referees in the Premier League are not using the bloody the system correctly. They're not using the system how they're supposed to use it, which is infuriating in itself. They are supposed to go to the side and look at the screen if they think they've missed something, or they think that, you know, there's something they need to look at from a different angle, and they don't do it ever.
No.
I think I can't remember who said it. Someone in the live chat said earlier, VAR can go in the bin. Absolutely can. Get it in the bin.
Bang right. It doesn't
get rid of it.
It's time we've tried to run before we can walk. We've gone from goal line technology. Football is evolved so much. It's just scary, and it's just scaring. It's just scaring everybody. Really, it's just not improving the game, and it's not pushing the game forward. And you know, it's holding everything back. And it'll be interesting if teams, clubs, managers, players vote it in or out at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think there's too many decisions which are getting wrong as well. which is it is incredible to me in itself that you can have video refereeing and still get the decision wrong. But it's these handballs which are doing my head in, because
I don't like a sight. Are you
it
supposed
just hits
to?
the arm and they cancel the goal, and it's like, well,
Are you supposed to have your hands behind your back? Are you supposed to tie your hands behind? It just doesn't make sense to me. Just don't do it. You know what I mean? It says it all there. So UEFA threatened to withdraw it from England if they don't start using it properly. Well, teach us how to use it properly. Then teach somebody how to use it properly. That's the thing.
Keith Hackett said that the referees at the start of the season, they were all taught from all over Europe how to use it properly. The Premier League is the only league in Europe not using it properly.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, what are you doing? Just to say, yeah, Gaz and Kelly tweeted a message earlier just saying West Ham are winning 2-1.
West Ham are winning 2-1. I nearly fell off my chair.
Get in there. Come on.
One of the hammers.
West Ham. Right then, yeah, VAR in the bin. That's if I had a red button.
Yeah, game over.
Pile of crap. As my favourite saying, piss poor. I've had enough of it. And I'm fed up talking about it, so I decided I'm going to do a show with Keith Hackett on it, which makes no sense. But I'm fed up of me and you having to waste time talking about it when we could be talking about various other things. Yeah, but you've got to address it because it's constantly like the biggest story of the weekend.
It's affecting the games. It's affecting football. So you've got to talk about it.
I hate the fans are celebrating a goal and then it's taken off them, and then the players don't know whether to celebrate or not, and then it just removes the emotion from scoring a goal. Like, can you imagine that goal versus QPR in the Millennium Stadium to send Cardiff up? And it's like, can you imagine if you'd had to score that goal, but then you had to stop, not run to the corner and get mobbed by your teammates because you had to check if it was offside? That would completely remove the joy of it and the emotion of it all.
I totally agree. Yeah. I've said all alongside hate it. I would really hate it because, there's no emotion now. You're not celebrating games, and it's just. Graham's one of our lads at over 40s, so Graham plays up front with us, and to be fair, Graham's a big Boro fan, and that's just it says it all. It shows how worried people are, because people are worried about it, and rightly so.
Yeah, I like I said when I was picking my three, I worry for him because Wigan have showed a bit of fight recently. Barnsley are on fire. Huddersfield have been very good since the Cowleys took over. So that's three teams there who are kind of getting into form.
At the right time as well.
I think your biggest hope for Boro is you've got Charlton. Charlton have started winning again. Your biggest hope for Boro, it could be that Reading and Hull get dragged into it. Because both of them are bang out of form, and obviously Hull have lost their two best players, so you could get lucky in that they could get dragged worse than you. Richie says it's VAR's ruined football. Even the officials are not using it properly, or just use it if it's a goal or not, a ball over the line, etc. I've had enough.
Yeah.
And just to finish, Kelly says that was one of the best goals for Cardiff City ever.
One of the best.
Stadium.
The best. Fact.
Even better than Craig Bellamy's last minute winner versus Swansea.
Yeah.
For a moment in Swansea. Okay, to finish off the show this week, I thank you all for joining, for saying hello, for sending questions, for sending comments. The best way for us to grow is constant, like having loads and loads of comments and engagement, because they just builds the channel up and helps us eventually get to some kind of monetization. I don't think that's right. So we'll finish off with the soon-to-be award-winning 10-second segment that is the greatest thing on radio, TV, or the internet. It's the fake Geordie bingo lingo, where former Premier League and Championship striker, ex-Cardiff and Middlesbrough striker, Mr. Andy Campbell, teaches this little Welshman something about his northern culture in preparation for my visit to the Borough.
Well, this week, Si, I've gone for a personal hero, but a hero of the area. And while we're on the Championship show, so it's Middlesbrough chairman Steve Gibson, born and bred in Middlesbrough. For me, he's arguably the best chairman in in England. You know what I mean? He's helped the club rise from extinction. You know, in 1986, the club was going bust, and he bought the football club as I think he was a 19 or 20-year-old man, and he's took the club above and beyond my expectation. And into Europe, and any football supporter in the land would agree with me how good he's done. And he's got a company called Bullcall, which is a haulage company, and he puts £1 million a month into this football club. And I can't thank him enough for what he done for the area and the football club. And anyone else who's daft enough to put that kind of money into a football club deserves a medal instead of all the grief that the people get. And for me, Steve's a legend and should be given that right in the area.
Spot on. I agree with you. He's one of the best football chairmen, let alone championship chairman of all time. And when you consider the amount of money he puts in on a monthly basis, that that really shows you just how much he loves the club, because he's not making a great deal of money from it. Yeah, guys, thank you ever so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Obviously, I know it's a long one, but we have a great time doing it. We have a lot of fun chatting to you guys. And like I've said a few times, thumbs up, share the videos, tell people, leave comments, even after, like, in the replay and stuff. Just leave as many comments as you can, even if it's just like, great show, have a look, next week, can you talk about this? We're always open to ideas for any other business where we talk about anything. So send them over, send questions. Send tweets, tell your dog, tell your mum, tell your sister, tell everyone. Okay. Ready?
Yeah, some great comments as well, Si, by the way, tonight. So
yeah,
very happy with that.
Can't fault it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I've had a blast again.
Yeah,
I'm almost sad that it's over. And like, there's loads of people saying, great comments. I don't want it to finish. And Johnny Wishbone just private messaged me and said, don't forget, you have to do the Rider Arms intro for your podcast. But I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with you, okay? Because we've been doing it for 2 hours, 20 minutes. I really need a wee. Not that I'm trying to get out of it at all. And what I'm not doing is lining up the ending credits, because I would never do that, because you've asked me to do it, so I'm going to do it. I would never do that. Andy, do the Ayatollah.
Just did it there. Didn't I see it?
I didn't see it. You'll have to do it again, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I did it there. There you go.
Thank you for the support, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for the support. We love it. Tweet about it, message about it, and also, if you really want to go that extra mile to support the channel and the podcast, if you want to buy some merch, the Andy Campbell Championship Show merch went up today. teesprings.com/stores, ACE-podcast Nation. And for the next month, my cut of that is going 100% to victims of flooding in the Rhondda Valleys.
It's Andy Campbell.
Thank you, guys.